Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1080 of the War News stream. And today we have massive news that apparently a Russian military plane violated Finland's airspace today. Also, the North Koreans have returned to the battlefield, and also Ukraine advances in Russia's Kursk region. Big losses being taken by the Russians, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world. But specifically today, the news segment, while I almost choked on that Altoid right there, is going to be focused almost entirely within the area of Eastern Europe and specifically around Ukraine, as all of our major news has come out of this area today. We have been able to hear in breaking news that the Finnish government has declared and largely kept a lot of information secret that just today, Russian aircraft of the Russian government of some kind, we're assuming the Russian Air Force due to the lack of information, has violated Finnish airspace for several minutes. Not getting close to Finnish airspace, but actually breaching the airspace and remaining within Finnish skies for minutes on in before leaving the area. This is a major piece of news, as this is one of the first times that we've actually heard that Russian aircraft of a government variety, whether it be the Air Force or Russian government aircraft, have specifically violated the airspace of any NATO country during the conflict inside of Ukraine. We have also been able to hear significant news as well. I don't know what's up with my intro tonight, man. Now I just smacked my teeth together and now my bottom row of teeth are hurting. But beyond that, in the Kursk Oblast, we were able to hear that the Russian Federation has continued to take losses in this area, as Ukraine is continuing to advance in the direction north of Malaya Loknya and towards Kromsky-Byky again, and towards the south they are now advancing from Ulanok and towards Borky, from information that we were able to gather today from Ukrainian sources as well as Russian Federation sources on top of that. The Ukrainian border guards are making sure to check passports and deny entry to Russians along the area of the border zone, and it appears that they are doing that in explosive form today. Meanwhile, Russian logistics are continuing to be targeted and destroyed around the area area of Relisk, heading towards Koronivo, and we've also been able to get a large amount of information as well about the incoming Mirage 2000s, with pictures actually emerging finally for the first time ever of the aircraft actually being flown to Ukraine and landing in Ukraine and then being transferred over into the Ukrainian Air Force. Not only did we get pictures of those Mirage 2000s in flight heading to Ukraine, but we also got video evidence of the Ukrainians training on the Mirage 2000s inside of France before the transfer was conducted very recently. We also have huge news from the battlefields of Ukraine. Most of the news tonight, much like it used to be back in those olden times, is actually from the front lines of Ukraine itself, as we were able to see a decent amount of frontline action in Vovchansk, Kupiansk, and throughout the entirety of the Orlivka, or really Toretsk, Chasiv Yar, Pokrovsk, and even the southern battlefields of Ukraine near to Zaporizhia. There has been a massive load of news today. I really have to say that it is a fairly large day for Ukraine war news, because while world news is almost every day these days a large news day, the war in Ukraine can sometimes have really big news days and somewhat smaller news days. But today is certainly one of the more interesting days that we've seen in the past few weeks for the war in Ukraine, as far as we're concerned. And it comes right on the cusp of the failure of the Oreshnik launch yesterday. And shockingly enough, there has not been an Oreshnik launch today being made to save face for the failed Oreshnik launch of yesterday. We are still expecting that there is a 72-hour time window that will exist if the Russian Federation tries to really cover up the failure of the last Oreshnik to launch a second one to cover up the failure of the first. So right now we're about 24 hours in, or really 36 hours at this point, into that 72-hour window. So we're about halfway to the other side of that window. Once that window lapses, we will most likely see that the Russian Federation will bide its time before launching another Oreshnik, and probably will give it a lot of safety checks to make sure that it will not fail the next time that they launch the third one. Of course, to make sure that the Russians look like they have a working nuclear arsenal, although they really do not. But moving on from that, it doesn't seem that the Russians are going to be stopping their escalatory actions at just attempting to fire IRBMs into Ukraine and having them spectacularly fail while over Russia. It now appears today that they have, for the first time ever, with some sort of a government aircraft, either from the Russian Federation's government or from the Russian Air Force, have violated Finnish airspace today near to the town of Hanko, which is on the southwestern side of the nation of Finland, and not that far away from the capital of Finland, which is named Helsinki. We were able to hear from Finnish authorities today that a Russian airspace violation has occurred, and apparently this is all the information that we have at this point that's been released by the Finnish government. A Russian plane suspected of violating Finnish airspace. The suspected airspace violation occurred west of Hanko in the Gulf of Finland. The Russian plane was in Finnish airspace for several minutes. We also got to hear that the Minister of Defense, Antti Hakkanen, commented on the suspected airspace violation, and the matter is being taken very seriously. This is most likely suggesting that this was a military action of the Russian Federation, where a military aircraft actually violated the airspace of Finland and then moved out of the airspace after several minutes. This is actually a fairly large occurrence. We have never seen a Russian aircraft actually violate the airspace of a NATO country throughout the entirety of the conflict. To make this a little bit clear, whenever y'all see those videos that say the Russian bomber is flying towards Alaska and F-22s were sent up to intercept them, those F-22s are intercepting those strategic bombers before they make it into U.S. airspace. If those bombers made it into U.S. airspace or continue to fly into U.S. airspace, the Air Force has orders to shoot those bombers down, as they're violating U.S. sovereignty, and they're also warplanes that are flying into unpermitted skies. For this reason, these are serious ordeals whenever they occur. They usually occur by countries like the United States and Russia as they attempt to test each other and their response time abilities for their air forces, to kind of get a little bit of an idea of what the readiness level is for the Russian Federation or the United States in turn. The fact that a Russian aircraft violated Finnish airspace today in the Gulf of Finland specifically and around Hanko, which is not that far away from Helsinki, is giving us a fairly considerable idea that this was most likely a Russian military aircraft of some kind, possibly an Su-27 variety aircraft that was being used around the area and violated their airspace. The Finnish government did not shoot it down, and we also have not gotten any information as to whether Finnish Air Force aircraft were scrambled to intercept that airspace aircraft while it was inside of Finnish airspace. We have gotten
It's kind of interesting, like the complete lack of information about this, considering how big of an event this actually is. And also, they said it went into their airspace for minutes, but they didn't say exactly how far it went into their airspace, like you mentioned a moment ago. So, between not knowing the aircraft and not knowing exactly how far it penetrated into the airspace zone, that's a crucial detail we're missing here. I wonder why the Finland government's not releasing details about it.
It appears that the Finnish government may not be releasing details, and of course this is more so extrapolation just from being in this kind of a news sphere for years. Usually when information is being withheld to this kind of an extreme and only the basics come out, it usually means that the situation is about as bad can be expected in practical terms. So most likely what happened, if I'm going to run y'all through the hypothetical of most likely what occurred at this point, there was a flight possibly of two Su-27s that were flying somewhere, and of course I'm saying Su-27s. This is a fill-in for really every single version of the Sukhoi multi-role, so it could be an Su-34, an Su-30, an Su-27 like this one, an Su-27SM. The options are quite limitless, but they would all be generally this aircraft, just different variations of it. But nevertheless, two of these aircraft may have been flying from a Russian airbase near to St. Petersburg and flying out of the Gulf of Finland. They then made a turn northwards, or northwesterly, around Hanko, violate the airspace, and then turn back out and then flew into the Baltic Sea. That is highly likely what most likely happened, or they may have been returning from the Baltic Sea, flew into Finnish airspace, and then flew right back out. This is not an accident. Modern aircraft, including modern Russian aircraft, have pretty advanced navigational systems to help their pilots ensure that they are not flying where they're not supposed to be. And so with this in mind, this was a deliberate action by these Russian aircraft today to violate Finnish airspace, to actually make it into the airspace, and then leave it after several minutes. We do not know what the Finnish response time looked like. The Finnish government is giving no details on that yet at this point, and the Finnish Air Force is not a weak one. And let me make sure to go get this for y'all so that y'all can see what is in the Finnish Air Force. So let me see here. Let's see here. Let me go down to the Finnish Air Force equipment in the modern day. So they have 54 FA-18 Hornets. And they also, well, really, that's all they have. They just have FA-18 Hornets. And here's one of them in the Finnish Air Force. This is all that Finland has for multi-role aircraft. Still incredibly good, mind you. But nevertheless, we do not know if any of these were scrambled to actually intercept those Russian aircraft that were violating Finnish airspace for several minutes today. None of that information was provided by the Finnish Ministry of Defense, or the Finnish government for that matter, which is leading us to believe that there may have been no scrambling of aircraft that was conducted at all, and that may possibly show that Finland was caught completely off guard because they did not expect these Russian aircraft to actually violate Finnish airspace. They probably expected them to fly through the international air corridor and maritime corridor that exists through the middle of the Gulf of Finland and not to violate their airspace. So this is a fairly shocking thing, and it seems as though a lot of people are talking about the action that was taken today as Finland, a NATO member as of last year, says a Russian plane violated its airspace for a few minutes today. And a lot of people are putting in their thoughts on this one, and it seems as though a decent amount of people are taking this to be a serious ordeal. Some are saying that it's simply Russia probing defenses of Finland, which is a serious ordeal. Others are saying that this just sounds wildly serious. It is a serious ordeal. Others are saying that this is just a small incident, cut the phone lines and stop the spread of disinformation, and others are saying that they're unsure and undecided at this point. But a lot of people are largely getting the idea that the breach of airspace that we're seeing today is not exactly a friendly thing, especially considering that Finland is a NATO member and the Russian Federation is openly unfriendly, if not hostile, to NATO countries, especially the ones that are in the Baltic currently, as Operation Baltic Sentry is underway surrounding the Gotland Island. Loads of people have thrown their opinions in on this, and Matthew, what is everyone's 2 cents on this, and what is your 2 cents as well?
All right, so let's see what the audience thinks. And it looks like 50% said it's simply Russia probing defenses of a NATO country, while 32% said it sounds to be very serious, and 13% said it's simply a small incident to be basically brushed under the rug. And I would say, honestly, it sounds like Russia was probably probing the defenses of Finland. They were trying to see probably what the response time was going to be, and also what Finland was going to dispatch to intercept those planes. Once again, we don't know exactly what plane it was that hit the airspace or when into it, and we don't know exactly where it crossed into it either. So a lot of missing details, which really prevents us from going too far into analysis. But once again, it is disturbing to hear that, and it's no small event when a very hostile plane crosses over into a NATO country. That's always a big deal. But I saw some people in the live chat, they were talking about maybe Russia was trying to goat Finland into doing something to the Russian plane to cause an incident. I personally don't think that was the case, because otherwise I think Finland would have sent some planes up, and from the sounds of it, it sounds like nothing was scrambled based on what we're hearing. So generally speaking, I'm with the 49%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would generally have to say that I would have to be with the 33%. It sounds to be fairly serious, in my opinion, and I believe that it most likely is quite a serious ordeal when we look at it in a bigger picture. Once again, I do have to remind people that testing people's response times is incredibly normal, but violating airspace of a country with a military or government aircraft is incredibly rare. It doesn't really ever happen unless if you're in the middle of a war. And this is something that is letting us know that the Russian Federation may be trying to seriously probe the air defenses of Finland to get an idea of what their readiness looks like. And they may have gotten an understanding today, especially considering that the Finnish government didn't really release any information about aircraft being scrambled, which is most likely showing the case that they didn't scramble any. This is most likely giving us a lot of credence to believe that the Russian Federation has now seen that Finland's readiness standards may be somewhat low, and they may actually be able to take advantage of that in the future if a conventional war was to begin. Russia's largest NATO border exists with Finland. Finland's border is long. It's around 800 miles long or so. It's so long that really fighting a war along its entire length is practically impossible, interesting enough, unless you dedicate a large amount of military forces. And even still, it may not turn out that well, kind of like the Russian Winter War or the continuation war a little while after that. Nevertheless, the Russian Federation may be trying to see what kind of resistance or what kind of real readiness standard exists in Finland, just in case if they were going to launch a first strike against NATO. A first strike against NATO would be something that the Russians would largely see would be lost in a conventional war. And I do want to make that fairly clear. Russia will lose any kind of a first strike that is ever conducted that begins a war. In the end, the Russians just cannot fight a war like that. But they can still do it, and they can still force the world into a war with a country that has at least some operational nukes, although there probably wouldn't be many of them in reality. This is what the Russians are most likely trying to figure out at this point, is what kind of a chance would they even stand if they began that war with the West. And it looks like, at least in Finland's case, they may actually stand a bit of a chance. If missiles were launched at Finland, the Finns might be caught slightly off guard at this point, because their readiness standard is slightly low. There's always a buzz of Russian military activity happening around St. Petersburg, the Baltic, and Kaliningrad, and considering that a lot of Finland's southern border, where most of their population lives, is always seeing some sort of Russian traffic passing by, they most likely just expect they're not going to do anything stupid, so there's no reason to have a constant state of readiness to shoot these aircraft down. And then when they violated their airspace today, now the Finns are going, oh crap, that did not look good. And the Russians are going, we were able to violate their airspace for minutes. It doesn't really look like there was any response. So this would be a good thing for us if a conventional war began, at least in terms of Finland. Other countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland could be at a state of readiness so high that if the Russians tried the same thing, they could get shot down instantly. But that would be something for the Russians to try and figure out here in the near future. But one thing we do know is that while Finland may be a bit of a weaker link, at least in terms of readiness standards at this point, Poland certainly is not. Poland scrambles aircraft when they just hear the sound of the wind moving in Ukraine. They go, missile, and then they mobilize everything in the Polish Air Force to go up into the skies. So Poland is ready for anything. I can promise y'all, you can count on Poland to beat Russia single-handedly. I would be fairly sure of that. The Baltic states do their best, given the limited amount of military resources and populations that they have, but they still do incredibly well to detect and largely try and deter any kind of Russian aggression towards them. And it does seem as though largely Finland does have a good understanding and grasp of what's going on around their land borders. But as far as the maritime and air corridor through the Gulf of Finland, it looks like they may have been caught lacking today in 4K Ultra HD. So hopefully we'll be able to see that the readiness standard is upped in this area because of the incident today, because this could be a serious attempt for the Russians to figure out what kind of a chance would they stand when conducting serious actions against NATO forces in a hypothetical conflict in the future. But nevertheless, we're going to be moving on from that little bit of news, and we're now going to be moving on to something else. Something big. Something real big. The Russians are still losing inside of the Kursk Oblast, and they're still being pushed back. One thing that is interesting, though, and this was something that I saw today from the Institute for the Study of War, is that they are showing that the Ukrainians have advanced a little bit further north of Malaya Loknya, and not only that, they're advancing from the area of the town of, and let me make sure that I get the name correct, because this one is one that I cannot remember, Ulanok, and they're now heading towards Berki, which is kind of like when a dog berk. But nevertheless, it does appear that the Ukrainian armed forces are continuing to make advances in this area, and one thing that is wild to me is that Malaya Loknya, this area right up here, kind of a little bit south of Kromsky Biki, that area is actually where the North Koreans were at a time and were conducting major offensives against the Ukrainians. And something that is so interesting about that is that the Russian military, not really bloggers, but the propaganda shows today, put on a show literally saying that they ran out of North Koreans and they're getting a new batch in a month, like it's a bakery or something like that. They're like, well, they ran out of
That's just like a commodity at this point, really. It's just like they trade in North Koreans. We need some extra North Koreans.
Dude, this guy right here looks like he may actually trade North Koreans unironically. He's like, I'm not gonna lie,
He really does. He might qualify.
Dude, you go to Russia and you ask this guy, so what are you selling? And you think he's running like a normal merchandising store. He's like, 5 North Koreans and 3 Cubans. It's like, what? It's like, what? It's like, hold on. But anyways, here is what this guy said. I will read the subtitles because this is what was legitimately said on Russia 1, which is Russia 1. That's the #1 TV channel in Russia. So this is the state propaganda channel. This is what was stated today about the North Koreans. Also, let me turn that down a little bit more. North Korean soldiers who fought, we ran out of them, and the next batch is coming within a month. We don't know anything about that. Tell us, please, any insight from the Defense Ministry? Yeah, it's like with Iranian drones. Now, in terms of the situation on the... you're not going to tell us, are you? There are no more North Korean soldiers as of now. Like, oh my god. Well, why is there no more of them? What happened? Because it's hard enough for them to fight drones. How many were there? It's just that it's never been officially reported. You're the first. No, you're the first. Only the Americans did it. Only foreign media and Russian media that reprinted it. It's just that state media didn't report it, so I think maybe there's some insight. I remind you, the same thing happened with Iran. Now we will launch Garans. What does this have to do? Because the situation is the same. Representatives of the DPRK are indeed present there in Kursk. They fought on this territory. Another thing is that apparently in January, we ran out of them. But nevertheless, it doesn't sound
casually running out of people, I guess, man. Like, honestly, though, there's like conflicting stories here. Some people are saying that Kim Jong-un was so offended that his guys were getting slaughtered so bad that Putin was throwing them out there in a really bad position that Kim was the one that wanted to withdraw them. So I wonder who it actually was. Was it Putin getting him out of the way or getting the North Koreans off the battlefield so their Russian troops could make their way forward? Or was it Kim demanding they get taken off the battlefield?
I gotta tell you, man, either way it was, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. The Korean People's Army isn't doing that well these days out there inside of Kursk. Like, they're doing horrendously. From what we understand, they did take an incredibly high amount of losses. They were withdrawn for some reason. And I also want to remind y'all again why they don't do well. They don't do well because they still dress... Let me see here. That ought to be good enough. They still dress like that with no pixels. They still dress like it's the 50s. Those are shush helmets from the Soviet Union. That's the SSH-68 model helmet for the large part, the North Korean-made version. They use AK-74s, which is, not that bad, but their uniforms are also from the 50s. I mean, the design has not really changed for most of the Korean People's Army at all. And I know that some people are like, well, wait a minute, what about these new KPA soldiers that they had at the military parade right here? They're wearing what looks to be modern ballistic helmets, bulletproof vests. They also have this weird kind of grenade launcher, assault rifle, kind of a blend sort of a weapon. These are fake. They don't really exist. Like, I know that they're here, but as far as existing on a army-wide level in the Korean People's Army, these people are mythical. They are practically unicorns. These people in this unit really only exist for the propaganda purposes of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea or the Department of Propaganda and Agitation, but beyond that, they really do not exist in any kind of practical form. From what we generally understand, North Korea is so technologically hamstrung for the large part. Most soldiers in the Korean People's Army still are using antiquated equipment and also using older uniforms, largely largely from the 1970s and 60s in terms of design. It really has not evolved much since then. It's a wild thing to look at the Korean People's Army and to imagine that not only is North Korea a hermit kingdom, but their military is also a hermit army as well. They don't really know anything about the outside world, which is a detriment, really, when you think about it, to the North Koreans. I mean, that's quite obviously a detriment, but let's talk about it a little bit more. So nobody in North Korea has access to the outside world unfiltered. Apparently, the military really doesn't even have access to the outside world unfiltered. So I'm having a feeling that delusion has taken a hold of the Korean People's Army, and they do not really know what modern war looks like, and they kind of just have this idea of what modern war would look like. That's generally what we understand is the case. We do understand that one of the largest influences on North Korean understandings of how modern wars are fought are the movies that were made under Kim Jong-il, which were largely martial arts movies. I'm not even kidding about this. Y'all would think this is a joke. And Matthew, you're laughing at this, but this is serious. Like, be serious. I'm just kidding, by the way. But beyond that...
You know, by the way, that I believe it was North Korea that actually kidnapped some filmmaker, some well-known filmmaker actually from, I think it was from South Korea. They kidnapped him and brought him all the way to North Korea to start making these films, new modern ones, that is. So I'm laughing at it because I was thinking about that.
Man, also, look at this guy. The occupier said, so you think uniforms make the army? You guys are stupid. No, I don't think that. But one thing I will say, though, is that it really shows how outdated your military is and how poor they are if you're still wearing model 1950s dress style uniforms into combat. You know, it's kind of like saying, oh, well, you know, you can dress up like you're fighting a line battle in the American Revolutionary War and that army can beat the U.S. Army. It's like, I doubt it, honestly. It's like, I would generally doubt that. You know, that's just what I'm thinking. But nevertheless, I would say that the North Korea, well, once again, getting back to our conversation here on the Korean People's Army and what they're largely understanding what modern warfare looks like, they don't have any understanding of it. And also, you are correct, man. They actually did kidnap that producer. I think it was back in the late 70s. They kidnapped him. He just disappeared. He fell out of favor in South Korea because of some things that happened with some scandals politically for some reason. But he disappeared, and then he reappeared sometime in the future in Pyongyang in North Korea. And what happened is that Kim Jong-il wanted to create movies that would get North Korea awards. Kim Jong-il was obsessed with creating a good movie that would win some sort of a globally recognized award. He thought it was going to be a big prestige thing for North Korea. So he kidnapped the guy, and he forced him to make movies for North Korea. So, you know, if he didn't make the movies, he'd get beat. So,
oh damn! Like, you're getting beat if you don't make the movie. That's not good pay right there. That should be a union violation.
yeah, and also his wife would get beat as well because they kidnapped both of them. So they would make the movies, and they actually were pretty decent. I mean, they were far better than the normal kind of garbage that they made in North Korea. But eventually, he actually was able to escape North Korea and make it back to South Korea. And he said everything that happened. And not only that, dude, he somehow recorded conversations with Kim Jong-il secretly without anyone even knowing. So there's a load of recordings that director made that's out there on YouTube even right now that have English translations on them where you can listen to him talking to Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-il saying things like, yeah, I don't really like the whole cult of personality thing we have to do. It's kind of a little stupid, but that's how we keep everyone in line. Like, he was legitimately saying stuff like that to this director guy. And then another time, dude, Kim Jong-il said, you know, I feel like you're a great guy. You're someone I can trust, you know, like a real friend of mine. After the guy got like beat and tortured for not making a movie, it's like, this is just sick. Like, but moving on from that, that's largely not really that guy's movies, but the other movies that Kim Jong-il largely almost had directed himself. Those are the movies that generally give the North Koreans a decent understanding of what they think modern warfare looks like, which is still an image that's stuck in the 70s. And not only that, is really almost based off like the Jackie Chan martial arts style movies that Kim Jong-il was trying to recreate. So their understanding of modern warfare is non-existent, and really their basic understanding of what actual warfare looks like is practically non-existent as well. So
it's kind of interesting from a different perspective how when you cut a country off from pretty much everything outside of their country, where you turn it into a hermit kingdom, that they really don't have anybody that they can call on to like make movies or have any creativity when it comes to creating films of any sort. Because it's kind of weird that they have nobody that has an inclination toward being able to pull that off whatsoever in their entire country. So they have to go kidnap somebody that has the skills to do it, and then just drag them over there and force them to make a movie. That's kind of weird.
It really is the wildest. Well, actually, in North Korea, because people are scared to get out of line, They all get the same ideas. So every movie in North Korea, I watched it. I've watched loads of documentaries. I actually read a lot about North Korean propaganda to understand how it works. Because all of it is created. Every single piece of media that exists in North Korea comes out of a single government department, which is called the Department of Propaganda and Agitation, or the Agitation and Propaganda Department. It's really whatever way you want to put those words out that makes sense. That's what the department is. So it creates propaganda and it agitates, which is what the communists call it, the public into communist ideology and, trying to kindle a national spirit. That's what their job is. And so everything in North Korea goes through them. And that means that every single movie has almost the same style, at least originally in North Korea. So here's how the movie would be. Wife and husband live together, do not love each other, they don't even care about each other, they love the great leader Kim Il-sung. Terrible bastard Americans and South Koreans come into their country one day, trying to kill and pillage everyone. Great North Koreans band together under the leadership of the great sun-faced leader Kim Il-sung, and somehow drive away those perilous American and South Korean bastards back to where they came from, and everyone rejoices at the end at the sun, because, at the beginning of North Korea's history, Kim Il-sung was never seen in the movies. They always just looked to the sun, and the sun was literally the representation of Kim Il-sung. Because Kim Il-sung, if y'all don't know, in Korean, actually means Kim brings the sun. So it's kind of like the Sun King of France, almost the same thing, but in North Korea. So that was how they would make movies. And every single one of them was the same. And every single other sentence, Matthew, would be like, oh my God, the Americans are here. What will our great leader, Kim Il-sung, the greatest leader of all time in all of history, ever do in this kind of a situation? Well, I don't know, but we're all about to starve here in a second. But nevertheless, Kim Il-sung will always lead our great people. And that was the whole movie. It would just literally be every other line was praising Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il. So that's why Kim Jong-il had this guy kidnapped and brought to North Korea, is because it was they're making the same thing over and over, and they won't do anything else because they're scared I'm going to execute them. So we're going to have to get someone new in here to get something, better on the TV screens in North Korea. So that's why they kidnapped the guy from South Korea.
We need some foreign talent. Bring him in on an H-1B visa, not by force, but voluntarily, please, please.
But nevertheless, that's the story behind that. Nevertheless, it even sounds as though Russian propagandists are starting to put out the story on air that the North Koreans got wiped out for the large part, and they're having to get a fresh wave of them from North Korea at some time in the future. I'm not even sure if that fresh wave is coming. I think the North Koreans may have been so shocked they're going right back into North Korea, and they're going to realize that the KPA is completely unusable in modern warfare, cannot be adapted to modern warfare, and that'll probably lead them to rely a lot heavier on their nuclear arsenal in the future, instead of even saying that conventionally they would stand a chance against anyone, because now it's very clear that they would not. But moving on from that, and out of North Korea, it is time for us to move on back into the conversation about what's going on inside the Kursk region, considering that advance is happening right where the North Koreans once were. And we were also able to see some additional footage today that the Ukrainians are starting to pull some really sneaky tricks in the area of Kursk. That is an anti-tank mine right there. That little patty-shaped looking thing that looks like it's covered in snow and mud. That is a camouflaged anti-tank mine that was dropped by a Baba Yaga onto the street below so that way it could blow up a Russian vehicle whenever it passes over. The Russians apparently saw this somehow and actually took a picture of it. But that is, as a matter of fact, the TM62 anti-tank mine. This thing will blow an entire tank off its tracks and off the ground if it explodes underneath.
We got some Russian logic here. They'll never see the normal tank mines, the ones that are literally right in front of their face that are wide in the open, but yet they'll see the one camouflaged like a big chewed up piece of gum. They'll find that one that's literally blending in like a well camouflaged snake here on the ground. It's how'd they see this one but they can't see the other ones?
Man, I'm telling, I don't know. Dude, they go driving down the street. You could literally put 1,000 landmines in front of them. They'd be like, I don't see anything. It looks like a clear street. You literally put the best camouflaged anti-tank mine ever on the street, practically blends in, and then they're like, oh, there's a landmine. Take a picture of it. It's how do they do that? How do you get it the other way around? It's the camouflage is supposed to be hiding it. They never show us actual landmines just sitting around. They only show us the camouflage ones. It's almost like it works in reverse. What the Ukrainians should do next is they should paint every single anti-tank mine in high-vis yellow, because that would literally make them invisible to the Russians based off of this logic.
Yeah.
The Russians would be like, I don't see anything. I really don't.
I would have to agree with you.
I'd have to agree completely. I have to agree with myself. But moving on from that, we also got to see another Russian road of death as a Russian vehicle was trying to move on its way down the street, and we got to see all the fire and fury burning around the sides of the street. Take a look. And there's a burning Russian vehicle right there, just hit very recently by a drone. Actually, it looks like a KAMAZ.
It's a fresh fire. Down with KAMAZ.
I think we're going to turn the Gaza Strip into a casino or something.
Oh yeah, call it the Casino Real, and put about $1 million in security around it because it's going to be probably dangerous to have it there. But you know, it's a casino. You got to go gamble. You're gambling with your money and you're gambling with your life if you go to the casino in Gaza.
They call it the Gaza Strip. I don't know why. I say that we ought to invade Gaza and rename it the Gaza Strip Club. A great investment.
And whenever they come to the casino, they're going to have a Gaza Strip search. A strip search. That's right.
We're going to strip down the basic metals. We're going to harvest the copper. Something like that. But moving on from that, we also get to see the Ukrainian border guards taking out some Russians that got a little too close to the border. This was just recently in the area around Sumy. And take a look at this. Oh, and they're slamming him. This is right on the border, by the way. I think this is only a few hundred yards off. Oh, but someone had to make it political. I was just making a joke, and now people are making it
political. Don't do it. Don't do it. Turn the cameras off.
Listen, it's not political. We're just trying to make some jokes, get some laughs. You don't have to make it political. You just have a laugh and leave it at that. I don't know what it is with these really political people. They drink the Kool-Aid and then they think that everything has to be political. Absolutely crazy.
You'd think that since the other guy wanted people to drink the Kool-Aid at the pavilion, that most people would probably stay away from the Kool-Aid, you would think.
Man, but some people slurp it down and become fanatics for anything. And it's like, don't be a fanatic, folks. Don't do that. That's not good. But moving on from that, nice to see the border guards taking care of the border around the area of Sumy. And we were also able to see that a little bit further south as well, as Russian forces were also getting hit in another area near to the border. And the Steel Frontier Border Guards unit was making sure to move these Russians away and also knock out their surveillance antennas near to the border. And we can see them getting...
I've seen people say they're advocating for the Gaza Strip Club. That could be coming next after the casino.
And that's the end of that clip. They hit the antenna, knocked it out. Very nice to see. And it's a wonderful thing, and it's wonderful to know. But moving on from that and out of that area, it is nice to see that the Ukrainians are continuing to advance inside of the Kursk Oblast, and it does appear that the Russian Federation is not really getting any kind of leeway on holding the Ukrainians back or really removing them from the Kursk Oblast anytime soon. And a lot of people are wondering, while this offense is, of course, not a lightning-fast offense, reaching Lvov or anything like that, it is still moving in a decent amount of directions consistently. And a lot of people are saying, will the Russians be able to stop this at all? I mean, it's not like it's going to, threaten Kursk City or anything like that, but at least with the progress over yesterday and today, it looks like the Ukrainians just keep on moving, and the Russians aren't really able to stop them. And it looks like a decent amount of people are saying that the Russians will not be able to stop Ukraine for a while, and the slow little move is going to keep on going. And some people are saying that Ukraine's momentum will run out, and it's largely going to end here soon. Some others are saying that only time is going to tell, and others are a little unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so the big question is, will Russia not be able to stop the Ukrainians' advance in Kursk? And it looks like 47% said yes, Russia will not stop Ukraine, while 26% said no, Ukraine's momentum will run out, and 22% said only time is going to tell. And I know some people have already said, they basically are saying that Ukraine does not have the manpower to actually plow through Kursk the way that we hope that they will. Me personally, I would say they have a lot of momentum going right now, but the Russians are already scrambling to try to stop the gap. They're already bringing the North Koreans back out, which is like, that's terrible, bringing those North Koreans back out. That means the losses are about to go through the roof for the North Koreans once again. But it also tells you the Russians are desperate if they're bringing them back out, because they literally just took them off the front lines to get them out of there because they were losing so badly. So Russia's obviously getting scared. They're shook and they're scrambling. And it'll only be basically time that's going to tell if that is enough to actually stop the Ukrainians. But generally speaking, I think they'll have good momentum probably for another week at least, which could let them get really, really far into Kursk and probably push the Russians back a decent way. But after that, only time's going to tell. But Enforcer, what say you?
Hang on one second, man. Please, if you would like to continue, please, by all means, please do continue. I'm trying.
Oh.
I'm trying here really quickly to do something. I beg of you, please stall. I beg of you.
So I'm going to stall for a minute. Stall, stall, stall. But anyways, I'm going to stall here for just a second. The enforcer pulls up something over there. He's pulling up something this time, and I'm sure he's going to disprove somebody in the chat wrong, maybe, because that's usually what he's doing when I'm stalling like this. So, oh no, you're not.
No, totally different. Totally different. I'm trying
You're
to.
pulling up some straight facts, fire facts.
Actually, I'm trying to make a meme really fast, and I was just.
You're making a meme.
Oh,
Damn,
man.
I can't filibuster for that long. Come on.
Oh, please, come on, man. Come on, Jack. What are you doing? What are you doing, Jack? Come on. Please. Like, literally, it's going to be just a second. Hang on. I swear.
I literally got nothing left, man. I've got no ammo here. I've got nothing. I don't have the mouse. I don't have the keyboard. I don't got nothing,
Okay.
man. I've got nothing.
Okay, we got it. We got it. All right. So, the Russians in Kursk. A lot of people are wondering. All right, now we got to build up here because I made the meme. I made it literally live on air. So it was a really low effort one. I think y'all still like it. But nevertheless, in the Kursk Oblast, the Ukrainians are still advancing, man. And the Russians are out there, and they're not having that good of a time. And now that they're hearing that the North Koreans are going to be brought up in a month, man, this is what your average North Korean soldier in the KPA is hearing after the whole first, the first regiment got wiped out, and they're saying that they're going to send in the second one. That's what they're looking like right now.
Oh man, you're trying to put the hat on the Wojak.
Yeah.
It's taking you so long, man. You're slow me making skills out here. But it's true though. Like that really is the Wojak. I've been using that on my short war videos, by the way. Like whenever there's something graphic on the screen that I can't show, I'll pull in a picture of this Wojak and cover up whatever it is. So yeah, I like this picture.
Man, honestly, this is what's happening out there for him at this point. I would have to say that I do believe that the Russians are going to eventually stop Ukraine inside of Kursk. It's just that it's going to take probably about another week or a week and a half, and then they'll stop them. But by then, they may have resecured a decent amount of the ground that they had a couple of months ago. So with that in mind, I generally would believe that, yes, the Russians will stop them, but it's not going to be without taking a decent amount of losses of territory, which is pretty much reversing all of the efforts that they had been making over prior months to try and push the Ukrainians out of Kursk. So, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And I like to see that a lot of people are loving the meme because I was really like struggling to get all of this quickly because I had to get the PNGs. So I had to go find a good PNG. And I was looking for a North Korean Ushanka with like a little KPA emblem on it. Couldn't find that, so I had to go with the Soviet one. So it was a little unfortunate. But nevertheless, I hope that does address that fairly well. We're just going to leave that around for a little bit. We'll probably go and grab that later on tonight now that we have a free meme. But nevertheless, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we now have to move on over into Western Ukraine to go cover the next biggest piece of news. And we were able to see this. Take a look at this. Take a look. Why don't you? This is a picture of a Mirage 2005F flying from France over Poland on its way to Ukraine. These pictures are, I believe, a day or two old, but this is the first time that we got to see them today. And these are the pictures of the Mirage 2000s flying their way into Ukraine. It actually has the drop tanks with it as well. And good gracious, dude. French drop tanks aren't actually that big. It's just that their aircraft are small, and so they look huge on these things. But absolutely cool to see. And also you can see that all of the French insignia has been removed from this aircraft, making sure that it's completely unmarked so that way the Ukrainians can paint their own marks onto it once it's delivered.
It's kind of fascinating, though. They're just like going to fly it straight over the Poland border right into Ukraine. That seems like maybe a little bit interesting, like maybe considered escalation toward the Russians, maybe. But I guess it's not perceived that way, or maybe they called ahead or something because it seems a little bit. I thought before, honestly, they were scared to fly the F-16s across the border because they thought that Russia would take that in a bad way. So apparently they've changed their minds, though.
Man, honestly, though, what happened was that the F-16s got in there and the Russians went, oh, well. And then everyone was like, okay, we can just fly them in now. We don't have to do all the goofy garbage to get them in. So then they just started busting them in. Like, quite literally just flying them right over and getting them on in there. But this is still a very nice thing. And I saw someone say, no, those drop tanks are huge. Yeah, they're big. I mean, yeah, sure, you could call them that. But American drop tanks, like everything, are supersized. So compared to an American drop tank, these are actually somewhat small. Let me go see if I can get a Mirage 2000 drop tank for y'all. Ah, yes. I see you know your judo well. Good one. And let's see here. These oh, look, someone actually makes them for model kits. That's actually pretty neat. Tag Nabbit? Wait a minute, are they not going to give me the gallons? Okay, so War Thunder will give you the gallon size on these things. They won't give that to you out on the random internet, though. I'm sure someone will release a classified file here next week saying exactly what this fuel tank does. But nevertheless, oh man, I wish I could get it for y'all, a size comparison of the French drop tanks, which do look big, I will say. But when you see an American drop tank like a F-15 with drop tanks, let me go get this here. When you see an F-15 with drop tanks, these drop tanks right here, like this one, these are about, I would say, 50% larger than the ones on the Mirage. Like, these are huge. They're actually like swimming pools worth of jet fuel just sitting below the wings. And what's crazy is that an F-15, a modern one, not only can carry 3 of these drop tanks, but you also have conformal fuel tanks that they attach to the side of the fuselage, like this one has right here. So you can actually extend, well, actually, what's cool about F-15s is that they can carry at most about, I believe, 40 minutes of fuel with their internal fuel tanks. With all of the external fuel tanks added and the conformal fuel tanks, you can carry about an additional hour worth of fuel on top of the 45 minutes, which massively extends the range of the F-15s like the F-15E that you see in the picture right here. French aircraft can get a pretty decent distance out of their fuel tanks, but it isn't as much. They, I believe, come up a few hundred miles short of larger American aircraft like the F-15 or the F-16 that can carry a larger number of external fuel tanks, and not only that, a larger number of fuel as a whole. But still, these are great aircraft, not dissing at all on French aircraft. I actually think they're incredibly good for what they are. They're entirely designed and manufactured in France. All of the equipment on board the Mirage 2000 and their modern multi-role aircraft, the Rafale, right here, is all French, which is incredibly rare in the modern day, because even for modern weapons development programs like the F-35, a lot of the technology in the F-35 is from multiple different countries around the world, not even from the United States alone. So for the French to come forward with a modern aircraft designed and produced entirely out of French parts and by French designers, it's actually a pretty impressive thing for both the Mirage 2000 and the Rafale, like you can see right here. And this is just so cool looking, man. From the front, it looks like an alien spaceship, honestly. It's like just incredibly
I like
cool.
that. That's pretty cool, the way they set the intakes up like that, sort of candid. That's pretty neat.
Dude, I honestly have to say, man, out of all 4th generation aircraft, the Rafale, in my opinion, is probably one of the best looking ones. Beats out the Eurofighter or the F-15 or the F-16. I mean, they look good, but this one just looks sci-fi, really, because it was made so late in time. It was, I think, put into service in like 2004. It was put into service the same time the F-22 was, so that's why it looks so modern, is because it is. But it's just an amazing looking aircraft. And they say that this thing is very capable, too, in the multi-role ability, like this one, for example, which I believe is carrying JDAMs, but this thing can also carry hammers, the AASM 250 hammers that the French have, about 6 of them per Rafale, and they are incredibly efficient kinds of bombs. The Ukrainians use them very effectively inside of the occupied areas. But moving on from that, wait a minute, hang on, I think that's actually, hold up, I think these are actually the hammers right there. Yeah, it has Mikas on board, Magics, and then the hammers. So yeah, those are the hammers, and they can carry about 6 on the 2 farthest external pylons that are, you know, of course, significant enough and have a strong enough root structure to carry them. But anyways, moving on from all that and about the Rafale and the Mirage 2000 stuff, it is great to see that the Ukrainians did get them, and we actually have picture proof of them flying into Ukraine. But what is even cooler is that we actually have some video of the Ukrainians training on the Mirages before they were sent. And this was just released, by the way. Now we're going to be muting that, but we can see them getting into the Mirage 2000s. We can see the French instructors, this is all in France, by the way, getting them into the Mirage 2000s and getting them ready for their flight training. We can see the Mirage 2000 right there. We can see the canopy closing. And we can see them taking off and flying on their way. And that's the end of the clip. But still, very cool to see, and great to know that the Ukrainians were out there learning how to use these Mirage 2000s. Just an incredibly cool kind of an aircraft, and hopefully it will be helping out the Ukrainians to defend their skies well on into the future. And so, with that, it's time for us to move on out of that and on into some more news. But before we get into that, there is another big question that a lot of people have been talking about, because we've actually heard that Zelenskyy has come out and stated something against the narrative. Zelenskyy says that North Korean forces have returned to combat activity in Kursk. And people are wondering, why is that happening? What's going on, Jack? And it seems as though a lot of people are saying that the North Koreans were never withdrawn. Others are saying that Russia got scared after Ukraine invaded, so now they're really starting to put them back on the front just because they want a stopgap. And others are saying that they got refreshed. They had a lemonade, and they got back into the fighting, and they're slugging it out. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So it's oddly a pretty evenly split poll. It looks like 37% said North Koreans were never withdrawn, like Zelenskyy apparently is alluding to, while 36% said Russia got scared after Ukraine invaded Kursk for the second or third time, and 22% said the North Koreans got refreshed for fighting. So they're juiced back up once again after a small little break. But honestly, I don't think the North Koreans needed a break. I know they're a little bit tired out there, but I don't think they needed that. They really need training and a little bit of expertise, but they're not going to get that in a short amount of time. So that's pretty much ruled out. So I would generally say that Russia probably got scared after Ukraine invaded Kursk again. Like I mentioned a moment ago, they're really getting caught off guard by this new Kursk invasion, and they don't have the manpower apparently to stop it. And also, they really can't launch their drones too well because of the weather in the last couple of days. So now they're calling in the North Koreans as a last resort to put them back out there to see what they can do. And I don't think they're going to fare much better this time either. So I think that's going to be pretty much finished for the North Koreans. They might need some extra, like the propaganda said. But Enforcer, what's say you?
I'd have to say I believe that they were withdrawn and have probably been pressed into the service as a stopgap emergency sort of a deal to see if they can just put enough bodies in the way of the Ukrainians to stop their advance. I think that might be the case because with the amount of attrition that everyone has claimed that the North Koreans have taken, which really isn't even being contested at this point, that it was around 50% or more, we would largely understand that that unit has been partially destroyed or, in military terms, almost destroyed. So they most likely would have been withdrawn from service for that reason. But now with the front lines being pushed back and things not really going that well, they're now having to try and find a way to stop the Ukrainians from moving forward. And there really is nothing that the Russians can move in place right now but those North Koreans that were probably not that far away, probably somewhere around Ivanino. So they moved them back onto the line, and they're now getting slaughtered again as they're trying to stop the Ukrainian advance forwards, or really eastwards. And you know what the old saying is, go east, young man, go east. Or the east is red. Oh, commie? but nevertheless... but nevertheless, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion, because I think that that's largely what happened. I would believe, and I would assume. By the way, I do want to share this to everyone. A big thanks, by the way, to all 9,100 people who are watching so far, and about the 10,000 people who are here tonight at the peak. 44,000 people have watched this stream in an hour. And I'm going to give a huge pause just to give a thanks to all of y'all for watching so far. We still have a good bit of news to go, but I hope that y'all been enjoying this so far, and I hope that it's meant a lot to you. And I hope that y'all hit that like button and that y'all do subscribe if you do like it. You know, we always put on news like this. We always get the news out there for all of you folks, and it's always a big thing that we're really happy about. And we always like to take a moment to thank y'all for that and appreciate y'all for that here and there. And tonight's one of those nights. So a big thanks to y'all once again. But nevertheless, we do have to make sure right here, right now. And also, Gavin Nesblick said, because you guys are the best. Hey, thank you so much for the kind words. Gavin. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to us that people are here enjoying the show. And also, so many people are saying kind words. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all greatly. We really do love to have y'all here. We love to tell y'all the news. What can I say? We absolutely love to do this. It's our dream job, honestly. And you know, I would like to be a locomotive engineer one day. But you know something, folks? You know something? I was actually thinking about that. Matthew and me have decided, as of today, that documentaries, we might not really be able to do them. We just don't really have enough time, and there's a lot going on in the background. So the Greenland video came out, and then we made it private. So we are probably not going to be putting out the Panama video, but don't worry, folks. We're still thinking about things to do. One thing I will tell y'all, though, today is that the wire transfer was done for the orchestra. So the orchestra music, the actual orchestra music in the intro, is going to be done here really soon and put into the intro. That is a massive venture in itself, to be entirely honest. Actually pretty intensive on the communication side of things with everyone involved to make sure that everyone's on the same page, the composer, the orchestra, all that sort of a deal. But Nevertheless, we are going to be having all of that music into the intro here fairly soon, most likely by the latter part of February here. So y'all will be all getting that music here really soon. And also another thing that we're going to be trying to do is that we're going to be trying to look into trying to make our videos, short war summaries, a little bit better. We are also going to be looking into making documentaries like the ones that we were trying to make. It's just that we're going to be changing them up a little bit to make sure that y'all like them. Because it didn't really seem like, well, the Greenland video, I gotta admit, was a baller video. But it seemed as though some people were saying some things because people are drink Kool-Aid, so they make it political. So it wasn't political. But nevertheless, we want to make sure that we are getting out the best videos to all of y'all and that y'all are liking them. So we're going to be revisiting the documentary idea on into the future. It's just that we're going to make sure that it's something that folks like, and we're not getting 5 million complaints about because there was a picture of the President of the United States, and then because of that, people drink the Kool-Aid and go, oh, hate him, oh, hate you, and and then it's that whole deal. So, we're going to be looking into that. But yeah, that's kind of what happened today. But nevertheless, I hope that does address that well. But before we move on into the rest of the news that we got tonight, I do want to make sure that we take a moment to address some questions from all of you folks out there in the chat. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first super chat of the night. This one's going to go to a channel legend, longtime channel viewer, Barry Woodward, who puts in a very generous $80 donation. And thank you very much, Barry, for that support and helping to keep the channel running. He said LSA life threads are through and through, and $10 for each of BC Skyman's buck points. And LSA, and may the USA bring peace to Ukraine.
And I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And massive support, by the way. And I got to thank you incredibly for that once again, Barry Woodward. And also, thank you so much once again for the LSA life threads. We like that. And I like the life threads. And also, very nice to hear that BC Scamming got a 8-point buck, I suppose, and that's really good to hear. Great to hear that he had a massive success hunting. Great success! But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support, Barry Woodward. Thank you for being an old guard and a channel legend, and also, long live the Lee Spring Army, and hopefully the USA can bring peace to the middle of Europe. It's not the Middle East anymore. It's the middle of Europe. It's Eastern Europe. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And also, I see some people now, there's like a little thing going on in the chat. Some people are like, oh, it wasn't political at all. It was a great video. And to y'all, I thank y'all. And then there's a few people saying, oh, it was entirely bona fide political. And I'm going to say this really quickly, okay? This actually annoys me because I'm going to be honest here. It was taken down because of people saying that kind of stuff. And it wasn't political at all. And it was a very good video. Like, it was an incredibly good video. Matthew put a lot of production value into it. It was completely unbiased, exploring both sides, the reason why Denmark should have Greenland, the reasons why U.S. wants to take Greenland. It was as unbiased as possible that we could make it, and yet people still came in, really just because there was a picture of the current president of the United States in the thumbnail, and immediately came in and said that it was political for that reason. That is what, I'll be entirely honest, I'm going to say this, I'm going to die on this hill for the large part. That is really the problem with modern day society, is that we cannot even on this channel give out good documentaries that would deal with something that, say, a president of the United States says, whether it is the current one or the prior one, and that's why we did nothing on the prior one, is because once you include a picture of them, people have like a automatic reaction to just hate the video because a picture is in the thumbnail of the president. So they immediately come in and just assume that the whole thing's biased, don't even watch it, and then they bomb it. And that was what aggravated me a good bit today, because it was an insanely good video. It was really good. It was factual, well put together.
You know, I was wondering, though, I was on the fence, and also thank you for the kind words about the video. Also, by the way, thank you to everybody that watched the video today, because there were a lot of longtime channel legends that watched it, and obviously, like, most people on the stream right now are sensible, like, they don't get into, like, going berserk about politics, but unfortunately, though, the videos are a little bit different than the streams. When we put those out, that goes out and gets pushed a lot farther on YouTube than the streams, so it was getting pushed, apparently, to the extremely political people, and I'll be honest with you, the video like rate was one of the lowest on channel history, actually, because so many people were were taking it as a political statement instead of simply the facts. So unfortunately, because of that, we didn't want to leave the video up and have it get bombed ratings and stuff like that because people were taking it the wrong way. So it got taken down for that reason. So that way it doesn't impact the channel statistics and things like that. But overall, though, I think it looked like it got good reception from the channel legends, of course. And thank you all very much for leaving the kind words down there because I did appreciate it. And it is actually still out there if you want to go watch it. It's simply unlisted. So if someone is watching it, they actually can share it with you if you want to see it as well. And also, I think it's on our fan Discord server as well. So very actually cool that it's still getting spread around.
Yeah, it is neat to know that it is being spread around, but we also, some people are like, what, oh, come on, that was a 2%. Actually, the video was losing subscribers the entire time it was up. There was no positive subscriber gain. People were just unsubscribing, and that was where we were like, okay, so I guess that this just didn't do well at all, and then we took it down. And that was really honestly kind of like a little disheartening, because he put in a lot of effort. I watched him work on it for about 2 straight weeks, and then we put it up, and no one really was, like, people liked it. Channel Legends loved it, but then people were just looking at the thumbnail and then immediately judging the whole video by the cover, and so I was like, well, that was great. So the Panama video was scrapped. Like, to be entirely honest, as of today, the Panama video is just scrapped because it would get an even worse reception for the large part, most likely.
Yeah, and also, by the way, generally speaking, like, once again, I see people in the live chat saying, well, you shouldn't have taken it down. You should, stick to your guns and hold steady with it. Honestly, that was going to be my position earlier today, but here's the issue, folks. We don't want to put a video out and have it get really bad ratings because that could mess up our algorithm or our standing in the algorithm, and we don't want to do that. So, unfortunately, we kind of had to bend to it a little bit because we don't want to have a bomber video out there and then YouTube think, hey, look, their videos are failing all of a sudden, and now they're not going to push the videos. We don't want to risk that. So, it wasn't worth standing on my laurels for that one, for that risk. It was not worth the risk. So we just had to take that one down. So unfortunately, the loud, obnoxious voices won on that one. But that's a rare case. We had to play it safe, though.
Yeah, because to explain a little bit to y'all on the business side of things, because at the end of the day we do have to make a living doing this. If that video bombs, YouTube takes it that no one really wants to see our videos, and then they knock everything down and deprioritize it in the algorithm. So then our livelihood, and for some channel legends, they'll know how important our livelihood is, certainly at this point, because we have no one to count on or rely on for support or help at this point. If things go really south, we have to ensure that we are able to keep our lights on and pay bills at the end of the day, because if we're not, we're going under a bridge, and there's really nothing that's going to be, changing that at all. There's no moving in with parents or anything like that. That just won't happen. So, that's kind of a bit of an issue. That's why we were like, well, we have to take it down. It is, I believe, still on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, I think you can see it there. And also it is unlisted. So if you want to get it from a channel Old Guard, or you're in a fan Discord where that link is, you can actually still go watch it. But anyways,
Oh, one thing I might do though is I might actually upload it, and we might actually end up putting that, maybe Enforcer if we wanted to, on a second channel, because it wouldn't matter whatsoever if the video, like, for example, didn't get great like ratios and things like that if it was on a second channel, or I might end up uploading it maybe to my personal channel, Enforcer Matt, so that way it doesn't risk messing up our main channel algorithm, which currently gets really good views. So that could be something we do as well. But once again, it is unlisted, so it's still out there, but we might upload it again to a different channel.
yeah, we might do that. Like, we might actually create a second channel, and there's a lot of things that I want to do, and Matthew's like, that's not interesting. But actually, I'll be honest with you, last night, Matthew, I think some things might actually be interesting. Like, for example, the coal thing. Like, I brought up coal, and then literally everyone in the chat was like, oh, excuse me, I actually know something about coal. And I was like, an insanely large amount of people know a lot about coal. I don't know why. I was like, that's like very interesting to me that loads of y'all knew everything about coal, more than I knew, actually. And so I was like, that would be pretty cool. Like, I've always floated this idea with Matthew, and these videos would cost a good amount of money because there would be travel time and everything involved in it, and having to get hotels and stuff. But I always thought it'd be a cool idea to make general documentaries on heavy industry kind of stuff, like coal mines, steel mills, that kind of a deal. Just things that, people don't really think about or see, but they're really cool to look at. Like going down into a coal mine, the walls are solid black, that's made of coal. And you're down in this giant cavern, and they're just digging a giant hallway through the middle of the earth. That's really cool to me. Or the steel mills, because like the shininess of the steel as it's molten is is just really cool to me, and I love watching that kind of stuff. So I thought maybe y'all find that cool. I don't know, maybe that would be something for a second channel. We wouldn't be able to make a lot with that or really do a lot, and it would be really, really low budget because, you know, traveling out of that kind of stuff, oh, that is expensive, like very expensive, especially if you have to fly, and especially since we don't have cars at this point. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and I see a lot of people really liking that idea. We might make a second channel just to throw all this kind of stuff out on. You know, we could do documentaries of every kind and all that kind of stuff. Maybe y'all find them fun and interesting, and maybe that will have some success. But we'll have to see. But nevertheless, I hope y'all like our brainstorming or a little bit of our conversation as to why that happened today, because we didn't want y'all to think that the Greenland video never came out. It did, and then we took it down. But you can still find it in some places. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And a big thanks to you once again, Barry Woodward, for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. And of course, long live the USA and God bless America. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so jumping into our next super chat here, this one goes to Little Bear, who's also a longtime channel legend, and thank you very much, Little Bear, for that $50 support and helping to keep us running. And they said, I know you have looked at my town a bit, but if you have time, look at my state biggest tourist attraction, the Little Penguins at Phillip Island, Vic, Australia, where 300 people sit in silence and watch these little fellows waddle past each night, and often sold out.
Wait, the Little Penguins, Little Penguin Court. Oh, that's a street. Like I was like, Little Penguin Court. What is that called again, Matthew?
It's called Phillip Island in Vic, Australia, and it's the Little Penguins.
Little Penguins. Let's see here. Where in the world are the penguins? Because this is the island, and we actually were on
There's
it.
Penguin Parade over there on the corner, like on that little outcropping out there. Look over to the left. There's Penguin Parade. Parade.
Oh, look.
Hey, it is some type of penguins. Look at that.
Man, look, it's a bunch of pangolins. Oh, these are statues. Let's see here. Where are the real pangolins? Oh, these are those birds. I like their beaks. They're green. That's kind of neat. Where in the world are those pangolins? I want to see them. I guess that you don't take pictures of them because it's at night, and if there's flash on, you blind them. And they're like, oh my god, the light! Oh, that penguin is dead.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. They showed up to see the penguin being carried around by that fox.
Man, they said, man, that pangolin dead. That thing's dead, my boy. Dead on the ground. Oh, look. It's pangolins.
Look at that.
Look at that. Little pangolins just wandering around. Pangolins, I tell you. Meet the colony. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Look at these emus in that fox. That penguin's dead. That thing's dead.
I like how that fox is holding that penguin, too. Like, it's painful. Like, ah!
Dude's like, ow, ow. Like, it's something like that. It's like, ouch. Oh, look. Bunnies. Great to see. Loved bunnies. And koalas. Taxidermied koalas.
Those things are kind of violent, you know. Like, they look chill, but they're really not. They're actually kind of asshole-ish, actually.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. If one of these things tried to like scratch me, I'd have to punt kick it. Like, just being entirely honest, I'd be like, get out of here. I'm like, I'm not getting scratched and getting God knows what's under those nails in their claws in my skin. It's like, no, thank you. But nevertheless, thank you so much for the support and sharing this. And what an interesting place, Phillip Island. Let's type it in again right here so that way we can look at the general pictures of the island. It's actually fairly flat looking. At least, you know, as far as when you get up on, like, the plateau that the island's made out of, it's fairly flat looking. And those beaches are really nice. Really, really nice, as a matter of fact. Long-lastingly nice. Look at that.
Very nice, actually. I like those.
I got to say that I really like those beaches, but nevertheless, I hope that does address that well. And we also got Crib Point. That's where me and the homies pull up to our crib. And also, by the way, we always have to make jokes whenever we move around from place to place. But we also have Safety Beach. This is for people who are going to the beach, but they want to be safer. Much safer, real safe, long-lastingly safe. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we're moving on into the remainder of the news.
All right, and the last one of the segment is going to go to BC Skyman, who puts in a $50 donation,
Hey!
and BC is back once again. He says he's back from Alabama, of all places. He went to the sweet home, and now he's back. He said he liked it, so I'm glad to hear it. But BC, thank you very much for that support, a $50 donation, and once again, he is helping to keep the channel running, and it seems like he's trying to buy channel stock. But thank you very much, BC, for the support. I do not see a comment attached, but Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you for the massive support, and thank you so much for always being an old guard and a channel legend, BC Scamming. And I hope you enjoyed Alabama. I actually had to wander around and talk to some people today. I gotta say that there was an incredibly nice person. I gotta give a massive shout out to the Hoover Police Department. I'm just gonna say that great group of people, very nice police officers. Never had a bad time running into a single one of them. They're always incredibly nice, polite, well put together. Great police department, the greatest police department. But nevertheless, I do have to say that I thank you so much once again for support, BC Scam, and I hope you enjoyed Alabama, because everyone, I'll be honest with y'all, our experience with Birmingham has been pretty bad. I'll be honest though, every time I wander away from the general area that we were forced to be in, or kind of still stuck in at this point, I'll have to be honest with you, Matthew, people are actually fairly nice anywhere else but exactly where we are in the city. So I think that's why
Do you think we've gotten messed up by it? Do you think, like, maybe because I'll be honest with you, like, I did run across a lot more like nicer people in like the normal areas of Alabama. I would not call the area we live in, Birmingham, normal. It's probably like what I would call a bubble of sorts, and it's a strange bubble. It's not the way most people would expect Alabama to be. It's very much different, and if you live here, I think you kind of know what I'm talking about. I think, but it's a little bit different. There are nice people though. I guess you could say out in the sticks. There's nicer people out there.
Yeah, also I see someone say, I hate Hoover. Well, I can, like, if you're where we're at in Birmingham, I'm not gonna lie, it's the most stuck-up people I've ever dealt with in my life. Like I don't even have anything to work off of here with most of the people around the area that we're in. And it's just so weird about that, because most of Alabama, from what I know and like what I've experienced with everyone else, it's just very nice. Like, there's very nice people who live in Alabama. And then we moved to Birmingham, and there's a specific area, I'm not going to dox it though, but there's a specific area, and about everyone in there is like a backstabbing fake. And what's interesting is that most of them would be considered in the top 1% of the country as far as income earners. Not really by our choice did we move there, but that's where we ended up. And then you're like, wow, these people are fake, and also not only that, they are really crappy people. So that's something,
Hey,
I guess.
Someone said the place. Somebody said.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
How's it known like that? How's it known like that? Honestly, like I know a lot of people. They're like that really live in the whole state. They're like, yeah, that one place right there is like just full of stuck-up people. There's nice people mixed in everywhere, of course, because it's always a mixed bag. Like, there's always nice people, even in the mix of bad people. But it's far and few in between. Like, generally speaking, though, not the nicest people in the world living in like the outskirts of like downtown Birmingham, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, it really is like that, really. And oh my lord, so many people are starting to bring it up. Like, everyone knows. Like, I've talked to people from like all the way down to Mobile and up to Huntsville, and they're all like, yeah, that one neighborhood in Birmingham, really weird. And I'm like, how in the world does everyone know that? Like, just passing by them, and you're like, oh, it's weird. It's like, these people are weird, and not in a good way.
Oh, also, by the way, BC Skyman, to add on to a super chat real quick before we move on, he said, pull up Open Pond Campground in South Alabama. Apparently, that's where he went.
Open Pond Campground. Let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Wait, where is this? Oh, it's down near, let's see here.
That's down near Florala.
Yeah, Florala, dude. That's it. We've actually been through there before, past Andalusia and Op. I know Op because you drive past this lake. And this lake is always like a landmark for me. But let's take a look at this little place, Conecuh National Forest Open Pond Recreation Area. And that actually is pretty nice.
That's nice. Yeah, that's a nice lake. I've actually never seen this place, actually.
Me either. Oh, look at that little cabin. Look at that.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Look at that.
Man.
I will say, like, it's interesting though that every like Alabama, like, I don't know if there's like a state park or some type of park like that, but it seems like they all have like the same look. It's really weird.
It is weird. Like, the parks around Birmingham, the biggest one being Oak Mountain, actually looks a lot like this. Like, let me actually take y'all to that, and y'all can see, because y'all kind of get to take a little bit of a look around our stomping grounds, which is Alabama. So let me take y'all to Oak Mountain right here. This is Oak Mountain State Park. And y'all will see generally like the same kind of, I guess it's just that it's a deciduous kind of a forest environment, so it looks the same everywhere. But it doesn't look bad. I mean, like when you're around like lakes and stuff in the hills, well, it doesn't look bad. It's not horrendous. It's not like, let me think of a state. It's not like Kansas or anything, where it's like quite literally flat and just, lame. Like, to be entirely honest, Kansas is a very uneventful state. I'm sorry to anyone who, oh, look at that. Dougie.
Yeah, that dog's happy as hell, man. It's crawling back up from that water like, a drink.
I got parasites in my stomach. it's like, oh no, time for a vet trip and antibiotics. But nevertheless, thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope we were able to address that well, and I hope you had a fun time here in Alabama. But I think that we just had generally had a bad experience with Birmingham. It's one that honestly I probably will never look back on fondly. Like, there's some amazing folks, and we've got friends all around the city. But generally, even with great friends being around the city of Birmingham for us has not been kind or nice one bit. And some of the areas that you would count the most in some cases. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Thank you so much once again for support, BC Scamming. Didn't throw in a comment, but the support means a lot and helps to keep this thing running. And moving on from that and into the remainder of the news that we have tonight, we are now going to be moving on into our location unknowns, where we were able to see a Russian mobile anti-drone unit, and this is it right here. They put mesh on front of the car.
Look at that. What's that supposed to do? Like, help it or something? It's like, it doesn't even have side panels. They're going to put a mesh on the front.
Actually, I lied. This is a Rodnik section. At this point, it's like, this is a horrendous vehicle. And we can see it's been turned into a technical on the back.
What is that, like a garden, like, hose reel or something they got the gun sitting on?
I suppose so. And we can now see the cameraman flagging himself right in front of the loaded machine gun. Always a smart idea.
It's like a pipe gun.
And the door is ajar on this vehicle, most likely cannot close. The frame may be bent.
This guy's like filming it like it's all like fancy. Like, look at this. It's something to behold, bliad.
Dude, he's about to do that, like, smoke edit, man, where it's like that, like, car smoke thing where they do, like, the cool edit. He's about to do that on this piece of garbage. It's gonna be like, wow, look at these, split.
This is like a Rari in Russia.
I've got the maker of a Mirage. Like, it's just something like that. Man, what in the world? I get a Grek a Mirage. There we go. That's the Russian version of that. But moving on from that and into the next one, we got to see the Russians walking the donkeys. They're walking the donkeys. They're getting them their exercise, walking the donkeys.
That guy carrying a whip?
I think it's like a rope or a leash or something around the neck of the donkey. Something like
okay.
that.
I was about to say, what is he doing? Like whipping the donkey to get him moving or something? What's he doing carrying that around for?
Yeah!
It's not a horse.
Man, I don't even think you whip horses. I think you prod them with spurs.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. You shouldn't be whipping horses, at least.
Wait, no. A stagecoach driver. Hang on. A stagecoach driver would have a whip. Let me go get that. Let me see if I can go and get a picture of this here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go. This is a cartoon of a stagecoach driver from the day, but still, they had whips. Because, of course, you can't prod an entire run of horses in front of a stagecoach with spurs. You're not on them, so you have to whip them instead. So, yes, that's one instance where horses would be whipped, to get them going, but still not something you do with easily, yeah, but anyways, moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see a MiG-29 flying low, and it was low and fast. This clip only lasts 3 seconds, but here you go. And we heard some bass line in the background. Hopefully nothing happens because of that. But still, very neat to see that MiG-29 flying low and fast. And moving on from that and on into our last bit of location unknown news, we got to see the Russian casualty report. And
Oh, look at that. Man, they lost one Bobcat. They had 2 consistently every day, but they went down to 1. Like, it's crazy. But the other losses are staying very high pretty much every day. As some bot says, fiction. This is not a library, sir. Please go the other way. Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that this is actually not the fiction section. This is the non-fiction section. Your mother is down in the non-existent section. But moving on from that, in the Russian casualty report, we got to see the Miss Disa, the keeper of the records, stated that troop losses for the 7-day average has dropped again to 1,291. 116 drones is the 10th highest daily loss, and 32 artillery is below the 7-day average loss of 49. And getting on into the numbers were pretty decent. We were able to hear that 1,340 Russian soldiers and Norks were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 18 armored personnel carriers, 96 supply trucks, 10 main battle tanks, 32 artillery pieces, 116 drones, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, and 1 Bobcat skid steer. All in all, things are looking pretty good, and the losses are great. It's superb, as a matter of fact, and it looks like that's with good reason, as we have been able to see that across the entirety of the front line, the Russians are not doing well. We got to see that an MT-12 Rapira that the Russians set up in the tree line near Vovchansk was hit today by Ukrainian fire and knocked out. We see them here targeting the MT-12 and its dugout and knocking it on out, ensuring that the Russians will not be able to use this towed anti-tank gun to be able to provide indirect artillery support for their forces and their defense of the small area of Vovchansk that they still control. You see them still hitting quite tremendously those Russian Rapiras. And they are just slamming them.
Giving them the full beans. They opening up a can of that old-fashioned whoop-ass on them.
Have you ever wanted a can that just sits there and tells you that it's going to whoop your ass? Well, then you, my friend, are in luck. Introducing the all-new Pushes baked beans, the only kind of bean that'll beat your ass while you eat it. Sit there and put one up to your mouth and get a left hook like Buzz Aldrin gave that moon landing denier. This thing will make sure that you're really reminded who's eating the beans. Guts, glory, pushes. But moving on from that and into the Kupiansk area, we were also able to see some Russian forces getting hit as well by drones. We got to see a tank and a couple of APCs getting knocked out. And we got to see them getting hit over and over and over. Here comes a BMP-2. They knocked it out. Here comes a BTR-82. Knocked it out.
Man, they're really giving it to them this time. They even got a little picture of something lighting up right here. Look at that. It's just burning.
And I don't know what that is, but it's bobbing and weaving down the road, and they're trying to drop a bomblet on it. And there went another. Oh, and they got the front hood, and there they all go. They're running for the hills, and they finally knocked it on out. And that's the end of the clip, but what a chase. What a chase. Moving on from that, man, that was almost like watching O.J. Simpson ride down the road in that white Bronco right there. But moving on from that, we also get to see the Russian forces getting hit here as well. And here it comes. They're about to be slamming into this BMP like nothing.
Oh, man. They got hit by, it literally said spook. And they're getting hit by blink.
And Roscosmos, weirdly enough. I don't know why. Man, that first drone went, ooh, I'm going to drop a thermal barrack on you. Ooh, you know, something like that. It's like, spooky. Ooh. Dang. They obliterated those. Jeez Louise! Moving on from that, it's now time for us to move on down from the Kupiansk area and towards Seversk, where we got to see some Russian forces getting, actually, the massive shelling of Seversk is continuing, and we were able to hear that here in this video.
Huh?
Did that guy just go?
You going? Oh. It seemed like you closed the door a little bit earlier, though. It's like, man, close the door. Someone's trying to get in. I like how he just casually walks up, like, okay, it's done, it's finished. Time to go back outside and play now.
He's like, today's forecast, a slight chance of artillery. And he just comes right back out. He's like, the shower's over. Another one will arrive in maybe an hour. But moving on from that and down the line and into the area of Bakhmut and Chasiv Yar, we also got to see the defense of the Chasiv Yar. Check it out. See the Ukrainian soldiers moving through one of the aggregate plants of the city.
А ті мішки, а то що? Пацани?
See the Ukrainians talking here as the shelling continues outside. We hear the sounds of artillery as the infantry still stand around the building. It appears that they're talking to each other, maybe carving up some plans. See him now looking at a steel girder on the side of the building. We see the Ukrainians still talking. The battlefield is now quiet, but interrupted by the sound of an artillery explosion. We could turn this into like one of those CNN commentaries. Boom. The sound of the artillery blasting outside. The Ukrainians only have precious moments before they themselves are finally consumed by the Russian artillery. And then the Ukrainian will say something like, the war is going pretty good. And then the CNN guy will go, the war is going poorly for the Ukrainians. So many countless lives lost every day to defend themselves from the genocidal Russians. It is simply a hopeless cause with no real purpose. You know, it's like, wow, optimistic of them, you know? And that's the end of the clip. Now, if this was Fox News, just to make sure that we, you know, hit all sides here and make it fair, you would have that little guy that like thinks he's a comedian, and he'd be like, "Wow, look at that paper down there on the floor. I guess you could say they got the receipt." And then there'd be like no laughs or anything from everyone on this panel, like. You know, and then they just, yeah, and then they bring on Salvador Dali, whoever the hell that is. Like, I forgot his name, but you know what I'm talking about, man.
Salvador Dali. Oh, you're talking about Geraldo?
I'm talking about Geraldo, the guy who had the mafia hit out on him for a bit.
Oh.
But then he would come on and he'd just say, I don't know what the hell he says. He's like, he just says whatever. And then they bring on Fat Andy Griffith. And then he have a couple of comments, and then here comes Sean Hannity hawking a brand new book. It's like, that would be Fox.
Man, Geraldo comes on saying the wildest stuff. Like whenever he came on there, like when I used to like watch all the cable channels before I stopped watching cable completely, that guy would come on like literally. I'd turn on the channel, I'd be like, "What's going on over here on this channel? I wonder." And you'd have Geraldo coming on to my, they're pornographers. They're pornographers. Like, what the hell is he talking about on national cable television, man? What the hell is this conversation?
Dude, when you're so annoying, the mob puts a hit out on you just because you're annoying. Let's say that's a new kind of a deal. I never heard about that. Also, Mashalav did it. F it, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Oh, my Lord. Dude, goodness. Like, I'm telling y'all, it's something else. But I think the one thing that was the greatest, though, was that one time that Don Lemon started to fraternize a little bit too much on television, and then he got fired for it. I think that's what he got fired. Like, man, that was another good thing on CNN. Like, honestly, it's just, you know what? Better yet, Matthew, on CNN, they were like, you know what, Larry, what do you think? Larry? And then they're like, you're fired. You know what? You're rehired. Nope, fired. And I was like, what are they doing to this guy? Like, just fire him. It's like, that was the easy thing. Like, but anyways, moving on from that, we're going to be moving on down into the Toretsk area. We got plenty of news down here in Toretsk. And we were able to see the Ukrainian police out there today. Whoa, we're going to be muting that. I don't know if the police got a license for that one. But you see, it is the Ukrainian National Police here.
Oh, we got a little freeze here.
We see them riding on in. We can see them dismounting the APC. He's dropping the improvised mine charges. He's getting them ready. We can see the police laying down suppressive fire with the machine guns. I'll tell you this.
I think usually if you drop those, people usually go, "Oh, shit." He just literally threw him down like, I gotta jump out real quick, toss him on the ground. It's like, damn, this dude's got balls of steel. Look at him rolling him in there too.
We see them now running off back to the armored car, climbing on in, and in a second that building's about to go. And here it is. Good Lord!
Jeez, those freaking like cheese wheel charges are strong.
Man, dude, they said, man, call this thing a cheese wheel with how Gouda it blows up this building. Like, it's like, oh, man, cheese, you know what I mean? Man, there was no laugh there.
Cheese like they're from Vermont.
Man, there was no laugh track with that. It's like, man, I feel like I'm egging it. Only be egging. Oh, dang, they got another one. Holy moly. Let's see here. Man. And that's the end of the clip, but still, very nice to see. Good to know. Moving on from that and on into the next clip, we also get to see Toretsk by drone. When you see the slag heaps out there in the distance.
I was about to say, since when did Ukraine get like mountains?
Those are actually, that's actually slag from like mining operations. So they just literally take all of the dirt or anything that wasn't really industrially usable and they just pile it up in those mounds. That's what they're called, slag heaps.
So they're like nice artificial mountains, but I imagine they're probably like toxic or something.
I mean, kind of, not really. Like you can actually wander around on them and, you know, nothing really happens. I think most of it's just dirt or unusable ore. So it's not really that bad, actually. Man, I see some people putting out some opinions on the lemon. And I'm telling you, I'll be honest with you, I just don't really like any of the mainstream reporters. Like, I'll just be frank. Like, hi, I'm Frank. I don't really like them. I think they're all kind of, you know, just kind of like fake. Like, I'll tell you another one that's fake. Jeez, that Cuomo. Man, you can just pay him to say whatever. He'll say whatever. Like, it's like, that is just crazy. Like, he has no, like,
Who?
Chris Cuomo.
Who?
Oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
Man, I forgot all about him.
Man, well, you remember he was on CNN and he was singing one song and then he got fired and he got rehired onto another show and he was singing a completely different one?
Yeah, that's switching up songs. You know, he went from like rock music to jazz and then he went to like hard rock music.
I'm telling you. But moving on from that, we also got to see the Ukrainian Patrol Brigade showing off Toretsk as well today. We can see some fires going on in some of the higher rises. Or the high rises, I guess that would be a better thing to call
the
them.
higher rises. Look, it's the higher rise out there. It's the sun. It's coming up.
I sound like someone from the 19th century. Look up there upon the higher rises. Like there it is, fire, heavens. We can see them here toasting them up. Oh no, Andy said it. Don't say that. He'll beat you up. Cuomo will. He'll beat you up for that one. I think he lost all respect after that video came out of him threatening to like knock someone down the stairs and paralyze him over that. Like I think everyone lost respect for him after that one. But moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also got to see the Ukrainian police doing their thing. Here they are again.
These Ukrainian police, man, like they're really deceiving everyone when it's calling them police. These guys are like straight up soldiers.
Honestly, man. Wait, stop, police. It's like, I've never seen the Hoover PD do this before. It's like, I don't think these people are police.
These are the most armed police I've ever seen.
Man, they say that they're out there delivering nothing but no-knock warrants. Like, it's like they're just going around just handing them out.
Look at them piled in here, too. They're literally sitting on top of each other.
Man, they're trying to get out of there before those landmines explode. Any second now, they're about to detonate. We see them firing into the building a little bit extra as they leave. And now they're out of there. Oh my lord!
Oh. Man, these little like explode and then scoot little operations are pretty effective, actually. They seem risky, though.
They seem risky, but it seems like there's also high reward. You just literally level an entire block almost with those things. Very impressive. But we also got to see the Ukrainian police recovering some supplies as well today. The police were busy in Toretsk. Like, there was a load of videos that came out of them today. You see him laying down suppressive fire as his buddy picks up the supplies and brings it back. Those were drone drop, by the way, so the drones actually brought them in.
What in the world are we looking at here?
Mines, things, food, candle. And
It
that's
looked a little spooky with that little candle over there in the corner. Look, that guy was like doing something strange over there. I was like, "Oh, what's he doing?" Yeah, a
This-
little something going on. Look at him. What?
man, I don't know. I don't know, man. You know, and then they got the diffused anti-tank mine just sitting in the middle of the building. It's like,
And they zoomed in on it so awkwardly too. Like, look, there he is.
it's like those people who come in as like the union inspectors, like secretly trying to film like the OSHA violations and stuff. But moving on from that and down towards Pokrovsk, we also got to see the Ukrainians hitting some Russians down here. And we could see the Russians highlighted with red rectangles. Red rum, red rum. But anyways, when you see them moving around. Destiny Agent is that. What happened to the mainstream journalists to actually go to where the news is? Oh, that doesn't happen anymore. It's too high risk. They can't get insurance for them, so they just, tell them, hey, why don't you go like somewhere around the area and just go stand on an empty street with nothing going on and talk about it from there. That's what they do nowadays. It saves money. You see here the Russian soldiers all surrendering, as a matter of fact. They're down on the ground. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! And now they're being let out.
Wise decision by the Russians. Also, by the way, I saw someone in the comments over here. They mentioned a particular fellow going berserko on X or Twitter. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. Like, I think most of y'all know who I'm talking about. It was literally a viral Twitter meltdown today, saying the craziest stuff I've ever heard. I don't know what is up with that guy. I think he's crazy. He's a musician, by the way, so that'll give y'all a clue.
He's mentally unwell.
Yeah, I think he is. Like, definitely. The stuff he was saying today was just like freaking just all crazy.
Did you see that weird thing that he pulled off with like that photo shoot with whoever he's with? Like, man, that's no guy you would want to be around at all for even a minute, man. You want to avoid that guy like the plague. But moving on from that, we got to see the Russians getting bombed today. This was actually a headquarters for, I believe, a regimental-sized unit. No, actually, it was a motorized rifle brigade's headquarters, and it got hit. That dove be dovin'. But we got to hear from the Russians. Morning in our brigade. Our commanders have passed away. The commanders of our 35th Brigade, all at once. The entire headquarters.
The entire headquarters. Bro, the entire headquarters got knocked out.
A bright memory to the heroes of Russia. And there's just nothing but emojis everywhere. It's so sad. Oh, pitiful. And here's the original Russian Telegram post as well, just so we all know it's a legitimate thing. But still, very nice to hear that they were able to knock out an entire brigade's headquarters today in Seladove. Moving on out of Seladove and further on south, we got to see down to towards the area of Bila Kyria that the Russian TOS got destroyed down here. Talking about them TOS launchers, we can see some training videos of the TOS launchers right here and their impacts down the way. But now we're about to see what actually happens to them in real life. Oh, man, I see some people talking about it. Let's see. Some people have been saying he's nuts for years. Oh, yeah, he's been nuts for years. I remember...
Somebody just said, I'd rather be around him than y'all. I don't know if you saw what he said today, but you ought to go read what he said today before you say something like that. Just literally associating yourself with something horrific, actually.
Man. Man, I'd rather be around him than y'all. That's quite literally saying I'd rather be around Hitler than y'all. It's like, well, poor choice, I suppose. All right, it's like I guess that's your prerogative to make bad decisions. But anyways, moving on from that and down the way, we also got to see down towards the area of Petirne, some Russian forces getting hit, and apparently that was a little spicy. So we're gonna move on from that and watch the MLRS explode in the ditch. There it is, and in a second, it's about to explode spectacularly.
Oh, look, they're on a wheel cap hub or something.
Whoa. Look at that boiler.
Whoa. Look at that exploder. Oh my god.
Holy moly.
The shockwave off of that was crazy. Look at it. It's raining down little bits of fire and, look at that.
Near nuclear, I tell you, near nuclear. But moving on out of that clip, very nice to see the MLRS getting absolutely walloped. And we also get to see a UAZ getting hit by an FPV. Well, actually, the aftermath after he got hit by an FPV. By the way, this is one of those hideous UAZ pickups, by the way, that got hit.
За рулем не я был. Вот, то бишь, УАЗику, соответственно, пизда.
Пизда. They're like, my God, it's cooked. And it is cooked because look at that. Whoa. Look at that fender.
They literally twisted a metal bar, man. That thing took a hit.
Whoa. Look at that fender. But anyways, moving on from that and out of the Kherson area, it's now time for us to move it to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 1080 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech.
Give me the speech. Give it to me now.
And here we go. This is the time for the speech. Speech.
Дорогі українці, українки, провів сьогодні ставку. Важливо, що військові та Міністерство оборони збільшують кількість не тільки підписаних контрактів на постачання зброї, але й тих, що реалізовуються. Сьогодні були доповіді по конкретних видах озброєнь і техніки. І багато нашого внутрішнього виробництва. Забезпечення для армії має бути стабільним, і саме частка власного нашого виробництва має постійно збільшуватися. Також сьогодні була доповідь головкома по ситуації на Донеччині і на Курщині. В районах Курської операції були нові штурми. Російська армія і підтягнули знову північнокорейських солдатів. Значна кількість окупантів знищена. Йдеться про сотні російських і північнокорейських військових. І це дуже важливо, бої саме на російській території, щоб не давати збільшувати напругу проти наших міст, нашої землі. І у нас на території, на фронті 60 тисяч російської армії, на Курщині це 60 тисяч, які не додались до і так значних сил окупанта на Покровському, на інших напрямках нашої Донеччини. Я вдячний всім нашим воїнам за стійкість, кожній бригаді за результат. І ще одне – дрони, технологічна основа сучасної війни. Українці мають бути в цій сфері лідером. І так багато в чому вже є. Сьогодні була зустріч із командирами підрозділів безпілотних систем. Вони із найкращих. І досвід всіх наших найкращих буде масштабуватися. Це люди, які пишуть нову доктрину технологічного захисту для України. Рішення ухвалені, дрони виробляємо і постачаємо. І значення дронів має стати таким, щоб все більше і більше унеможливлювати російські штурми. Українська держава не жалітиме ресурси на це, бо це збереження життів наших людей. Я дякую всім, хто з Україною. Слава Україні!
And
Heroes Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 1080 of the war. And that's going to be moving us on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And boy, howdy, what a new segment it has been. So far, 60,000 people have watched the stream before the end of the hour. And I got to thank you all so much once again for really enjoying this channel and finding it to be your quality source of news. Hopefully, a good quality source of news. We try our best to make sure that we put in the best efforts every single day that we can. Sometimes that's tough. Over the past few days, it's been incredibly tough. I'll be entirely honest with y'all, because we have a lot of things going on behind the scenes that stress us out to high heavens. But nevertheless, we always get on air and we always want to make sure that we give you all the best show. And I hope that tonight we were able to ensure that it was a show like any other. It was incredibly well informed and has a lot of good jokes inside of it as well, to make sure that not only do y'all get the news, but y'all have a little bit of a laugh while hearing about it. Because, you know, why cry about it when you can laugh about it? That's always what we say. But nevertheless, it is time for us to move on into that second segment. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping right into our last question segment of the night. Once again, we have no more polls to address. And like I say all the time, we love the polls. But sadly, when we run out of polls, there are simply none to address. So we must move on to our Super Chat questions. And this one is going to go to Danny B, who's, of course, a longtime channel legend. And thank you very much, Danny, for throwing in that $50 support and very generously helping to keep the whole thing running. We appreciate that, Danny. He said, "Good evening, Enforcers. Chef Danny here. And sorry if you already said this, but what part of Ukraine are the North Koreans and LSA?"
And thank you so much for the support, Danny B, absolute channel legend, and hello to you. I hope that you're doing incredibly well tonight. I hope that you're doing amazingly well. The chef of the entirety of the LSA is here. And also, let's see, sorry if you already said this, what part of Ukraine are the North Koreans? They are not in Ukraine, actually, from what we understand. They're actually in the Kursk Oblast. And from what we understand, they're actually, well, when they were on the front and when they're supposedly back on the front now, they are somewhere around the Malaya Loknya area, or really the Kromsky-Bicky direction, as we call it, on the road heading up towards Lvov. And that's generally what we understand to be the case. But we could be mistaken with that, but that generally seems to be largely what we're understanding, is they're attached to a Marine infantry brigade that is in the area, and that one is holding the line from Bolshoi Solatskoy all the way over to around Kromsky-Bicky. So I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, Danny B, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so with that, huge thanks to you so much once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to David Kotke, who's once again another longtime channel legend, and thank you very much, David, for that $50 support as well, coming in bigly with the support, and thank you very much for that. He said, "Hey, Enforcer and Enforcer Matt, you guys are awesome," and thank you, David, for the kind words. He said, "And definitely looking forward to your guys' documentary," and oh, dang, man, like, it pains me to hear that. He said, "How do I find it on your Patreon? And please take one from the chat." And I will be posting the link to it on the Patreon, by the way. I need to do that. I think the Enforcer misspoke earlier. We need to actually post that. And also, I will be posting it most likely probably on my personal channel, if not a second channel that we create. But it will get reposted, just not on the main channel, though. We don't want to hurt the algorithm. That all-powerful algorithm, I tell you what. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support. And Matthew answered that fairly well. I did misspeak, it's not on Patreon yet, but it should be on there, and it will be accessible to anyone who is a paid member of Patreon. So if you're on Patreon and you're a paid member, you should be able to access it, or access the link to go straight to the video and be able to watch it. Once again, though, we don't really want to hurt the algorithm, because we have to make sure that all of our other videos succeed, so that way we can continue to make sure that the channel's doing well and that we're making a living doing it, where we can pay our bills. You know, like, to be entirely honest, we're kind of having to strip it down to the bare basics at this point. You know, and it's kind of a little bit of a unfortunate thing. And when I mean strip it down to the bare basics, I'm not really saying with our content or our quality, but more so with how we kind of have to look at things, because we have not gone into it a lot on stream, and I've alluded at it a little bit, and I'm just going to keep on. But things are changing a lot behind the scenes, and not really for the better. And so we kind of have to just be able to make sure that we can survive on our own with absolutely no one really to turn to at this point. So we have to ensure that the channel is successful from this point forward, at least on the financial side of things, because we really can't do what we used to do and say, oh yeah, we can take a hit in the algorithm and have videos get knocked down a bit in the algorithm from this point forward, because that could actually start to hurt us in a way that makes it very difficult to keep running this channel. So I hope that does address that well, though, and I thank you so much once again for the support and the kind words, because you've been around for an incredibly long time, and I gotta thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping you to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And we will make sure to take one from the live chat. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so the one from the live chat is going to go to, let's see here, this one goes to Alpha Dog, who says, "Did you guys hear that the Army is considering changing the name of Fort Liberty back to Fort Bragg?"
I haven't heard about that. I wouldn't be against it, because I grew up hearing Fort Bragg. Really the one I heard about the most, because it's the one local to us, is Fort Benning in Georgia, and now it's called Fort Moore. I don't ever call it Fort Moore. I just call it Fort Benning, because that's what I grew up with. So if they rename it to Fort Bragg and Fort Benning and everything else, I'd be totally fine with that, because that's what I know them as, and that's why I've continued to call them even with the name change. Also, the National Infantry Museum is here at Fort Benning, and this is actually a really good museum. Like, I'd highly recommend going. Really cool exhibits. Really cool entrance. I mean, it's just such a cool, it's like a really nice museum. I would highly recommend that you ever come through this area, make sure to take a trip through here because it is just incredibly good through and through. I mean, just look at this. It's a Harley-Davidson WLA. Where else do you see that kind of a deal?
I also think to have that combat simulator back there, it was always broken every time we went to this place. But I think a couple of people tried it anyway that I knew. And it turned out it was not that great because I think there was like a busted speaker or something. But if it works, it's pretty cool though. It's a whole combat simulator. It like has a Humvee you sit in the back of. And I think it actually moves at some point.
I think it moved a little bit, but not a lot. But also, what is... Oh, that's a machine gun trailer, I guess. It's like a motorized machine gun carrier. I don't know what that is, but that actually is pretty unique. I've never seen that one before. I didn't even see it when I went to the museum last time. And a Gatling gun. Of course, you have to have a Gatling gun. Everyone has to have a Gatling gun. And you have to have your... I would assume that is a 12-pounder? Or probably, nah, actually, it's maybe a 12-pounder. I think that might be a 12-pounder. It's a really cool museum, though. I'll cut it short. I won't rabbit hole on everything in this museum. It's a really cool one, and I'd really recommend that y'all go and take a look and take a gander and check that little fella out. It's really nice. And with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Veteran RN, who's also a longtime channel legend and throws in that very generous $50 support. And thank you very much, Veteran RN, for that support. And let me see, I'm pretty sure there's a super sticker. Also, that's a 50-pound donation, by the way. Extremely heavy. You'll need a wheelbarrow for that. Thank you very much, Veteran RN. And they put in the super sticker of the Doge jumping up in the sky with the fireworks blowing up around it. So I must say, that is very good. I was going to make a joke there, but I'm going to have to refrain from that joke. I'm not sure if that's appropriate. So I'll to refrain from it. But you see the Doge jumping up there. Look at it. It's happy as hell, that Doge right there. But thank you very much, Veteran RN, once again. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much for the support, Veteran RN, one of our British viewers. And I gotta thank you massively for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help us to keep it running. The Lee Spring Army is a worldwide organization, and while we have a heavy focus on pro-American interest on the channel and really talking about the United States, it is, of course, the entirety of the Western sphere that makes the American dream and really the Western dream a reality. And I gotta thank you massively so much once again, Veteran RN, for that incredible support, because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to put out the news coverage that we do and all of the other cool and neat projects that we've been knocking out for years at this point. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Liz W, who puts in a 40. And thank you, Liz W, as well for that support and throwing that in. I was just going to go back and double check here and see if there's anything attached to that super chat. Let me take a look. It was attached. Actually, yeah, it was 2 super chats, actually. 2 super stickers. And one of them was the YouTube pair looking in the mirror, and it loves itself. Look at that. It says, thanks for being you. And also, we have the Doge down there. It's now grabbing a trophy and holding on to it. Look at that. In a samurai outfit. But thank you very much, Liz W, for that support and helping to keep the channel running. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you, Liz W, for the support as well. And thank you for throwing in some pretty cool super stickers. We love them. And I gotta thank you so much once again for really enjoying this channel and supporting it. We say this so many times, but nevertheless, it's always true for every single person. Y'all help to make this channel possible, and y'all help it to keep on running. And I got to thank you so much once again for that support, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we would not be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so with that, huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we have a $20 support from Love Is Everything, and thank you very much, Love Is Everything, for that $20 support and helping to keep us running as well. And they said, thank you so much, and it dedicated to my mom, who will have a heart operation in Swansea, Wales on Monday. And oh, I hope that goes well, by the way. And also, they said, question to the chat.
And I had to say, I hope that that does go well for your mom in Swansea in Wales. We actually have passed through there before. It's right down here on the southern coast near to Cardiff, and we actually rode. Hang on, actually, I believe we took the one that went straight down into Cardiff and then through Newport and across the way into Bristol. So I'm not actually sure if we went to Swansea, but nevertheless, I wish her the best of luck. I hope that the surgery goes incredibly well, and I'm also wishing the best of luck for you too, so that way you don't have to be too stressed out about it. But nevertheless, I got to thank you so much for supporting the channel tonight, and hopefully things will go incredibly well. I would like to see Swansea one day. What does Swansea look like in Wales? Oh, actually, it really is pretty neat looking.
I gotta say, I like whales overall. I know some people don't like it, but I think it looks pretty cool.
I actually think Wales is just really neat overall. I really like Wales. That's actually where our family is from historically. It's a pretty cool place. We've been there, checked it out. It was really neat, really cool. Welsh people are really nice too. So I wish you the best of luck with that, and I hope things go incredibly well with that surgery. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $20 support from Dustin Mayo. And thank you very much, Dustin, as well, for that support and helping to keep us running yet again. And thank you very much, Dustin, for always supporting the channel as well. He's always throwing in support. And Dustin says, does Russia have any military strength left, both troops-wise and equipment-wise? And also, the Nome, Alaska plane crash was found 34 miles southeast of Nome. And unfortunately, the U.S. Coast Guard said there were no survivors.
Oh, unfortunately, I did forget to cover that because I was on the other side of the world. But we did have an update on that, and there were no survivors. That's a very unfortunate thing. Sounds like the aircraft ran into some difficulties and crash, leading to no survivors. Very sad thing. But nevertheless, thank you for sharing that update with everyone because I actually did not cover that news tonight. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible. We wouldn't be able to keep it running, and we wouldn't be able to get the news out, whether I forgot that specific segment or not. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, did you answer the first question, by the way? You said, does Russia have any military strength left, both troops-wise and equipment-wise?
Really, they do not. They have troops that they could leverage against the West in the beginning of a conventional war, but in terms of actual combat power or combat efficiency, it's non-existent at this point. They probably would be conscripts of the Rosguardia or other conscripts of the regular Russian army, which would be poorly trained and poorly prepared for what was in front of them. So with that in mind, I would say that they generally do not have a great deal of combat power to levy against NATO if they were to want to start a war. But that still does not stop the fact that they could start a war with NATO, and that would be a war in between two nuclear-armed parties, and that would be a serious concern as far as the outbreak of nuclear war in the future, even if they stood a fighting chance or even if they were losing massively. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Huge thanks to you so much once again for asking a very interesting question. Sorry that I forgot to answer that there, but still a huge thank you to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have the days in history from guess who? It is none other than Gunfox. He throws in 3 super chats, equal a $60 donation. And thank you very much, Gunfox, for the 3 supports. And thank you very much for being a long-time channel legend and a large-time channel legend. I don't know what I was trying to say. I was trying to mix those two up there, but thank you very much, Gunfox. He said, Apollo missions, goals, direct ascent, Earth orbit rendezvous, the EOR, lunar orbit rendezvous, the LOR, and the purpose-crewed lunar landing launch sites, Cape Kennedy Space Center, White Sands, October the 27th of 1961, the Saturn one. And also, Saturn-Apollo 2, SA-2, was the second flight of the Saturn 1 launch vehicle and the first flight of Project Highwater, and was a part of the American Apollo program, and the rocket was launched on April the 25th of 1962 from Cape Canaveral. And to continue, he said on 11/16/1962, Saturn Apollo 3 was the third flight of the Saturn 1 launch vehicle, the second flight of the Project Highwater, and this mission was the first time the Saturn 1 rocket was launched with a full loaded. And also, a question from the chat.
I gotta thank you so much for the support, Gunfox61, and thank you so much for throwing in another day in history. This time, moving on from Gemini and into the Apollo program. Probably the most famous program that's ever been conducted in U.S. space history. Everyone knows Apollo 11 landed on the moon, but Apollo is just such an interesting program in total. It only costed $257 billion in 2023 figures, which is actually surprisingly cheap to think of how many missions that were launched and how much was done over the course of an entire 11 years. That was actually fairly cheap annually. Why in the hell are we spending all that money going to the moon when we could spend it on the Batarangs? Or something like that. You know, there's that pig-faced looking guy out there saying that right now probably. But beyond that, it is very neat to know. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you help to make this thing possible and help us to share interesting parts of history. This is probably one of the coolest pictures, I'll be honest, that came from Apollo, which was from Apollo 8 as they were orbiting above the surface of the moon. And so you can see like the topography of the moon down there, the craters, the mountains and such things, and then you can see the Earth only being illuminated on one half by the sun. And people say that this picture is fake, and because there are no stars in the background. But you know something that they
Oh,
didn't think? You know something that they didn't think? There is light refracting very heavily off of the surface of the moon while that picture was being taken, and much like you can't see the stars in the middle of the day on Earth, it's the very same thing when you're near to the surface of the moon, because the light that's being refracted back off of it. So it makes it very hard to see the light of distant stars, and that's why this picture has a completely black background.
wait, also, this photo right here, also this is a joke just to preface this, by the way. I don't want YouTube to come and be like, misinformation. But it can't be real because there's only half the Earth here. Like, it's a dome.
Oh my god! The Earth is a
A
semicircle.
revolution.
Like it's a semicircle. When you go to the bottom, you fall off. They don't want you to know that. Big map doesn't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that the other half is fake. There is no Russia or Ukraine. It's all a lie. The money's going to no one. But let's see here. Also, this was the first lander concept. Yikes! That's like a Twilight Zone spacecraft.
Yeah, really. It looks like it's got like antenna like coming out the top of it like a bug.
It's a good thing, Timmy, that you sent those guys to the cornfield. It's a good thing. It's almost like going to turn into that here in a second. But still, let's see here. Oh, there is the command module that I know and love. The goofy little cylinder. It looks like a dog food can with the giant thruster. Really the rocket engine. I always thought that this thing looked a little like cool. It was goofy but cool at the same time, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like the little thruster things on the side right there. You see the little like 4 jets right there. Those are
Yeah.
pretty cool. Like how those work.
Dude, honestly, the whole Apollo program was really cool with how it worked. It's like it was so primitive too to achieve so much. So I gotta say, really, really neat stuff. But let's see here. There's the lunar lander. I believe this is a reverse side from the ladder, so this is the part that you really don't see. And honestly, it looks really like blocky back here. It looks like it's like the front's really well made. The back part, you know, it looks a little interesting, honestly. But let's see here. Oh yes. Little. Look, Jack, don't call me little, you little bastard. What are you talking about?
Jack. The rocket was sitting in the hills, the hills that Xi Jinping. Anyway.
Some people, they want to call me sleepy. I'm not, I'm little. Like, I'm a little Joe or something like that. It's like, what are you talking about, Jack? I'll beat your ass or something like that. But anyways, let's see. This is the Saturn 1, the Saturn 1B, and then the Saturn 5, the most impressive one of them all in the Apollo program. Pretty cool, pretty neat, pretty nice. And also, there's a Saturn 1B launch. I don't know what it is, man, but for some reason, all the Apollo program pictures always look so tropical for some reason. I think it's the palms.
I honestly like that, man. It has a nice little look to it. It's like one of those. It really honestly could go good on like a poster. You know, like those racing posters for like Monaco and stuff like that. You'll see the palm trees and everything like that.
Yeah.
And then the cars. It's like the same thing, but with the rockets.
Man, honestly, I would like to have like some posters like this. Honestly, there's so many posters that I'd like to have, really. Like also this actually is a infographic showing the entire process of what they do and where they go. That's really neat. But let's see here. Dang, man, they have some really detailed illustrations here on Wikipedia. Dang. Oh, what the hell is this?
Does that have thrust vectoring? Look at that.
That's the nuke. Like, that's the mini nuke. Like, well, let's see. Apollo. Oh, well, you know, we'll move on from that. That's just pretty much the Saturn V. Also, these guys are surrendering. They're putting their hands up. They're giving up. They've surrendered to the aliens, and they're going straight to the back rooms. But let's see here. Oh, by the way, some people were like, how did they set up the camera before they walked out? How the hell did they do that? That's because there's a camera on the leg of the lunar lander, and so it's just looking right back at the ladder. Like, that was pre-planned, you know? Like, it's looking right where they come off. It's not like they could come off anywhere else. But let's see. Let's see here. Oh, dude, look at the Apollo symbols. Like, this one. Let me go see. Dude, look at that.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
That is American as hell. Like, that is the most...
Mattingly, wait a minute. Young, Mattingly, and Duke. Man, that honestly sounds like a nice slogan for me, honestly. Young, Mattingly, Duke.
And here they are.
I like that. Oh, look, it's all three of me.
Why in the world does this guy look like someone who would have been in a Star Trek episode?
I'm not going to lie. Like, what year was this taken again?
1972.
1972. Now, see, this is why I say people looked a lot different, like back in the day. Like, these guys look a lot different than the modern day person, I think. Like, they really do. Like, you just don't see people that look like that anymore.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I honestly do believe that it may just be the lighting and also the camera a little bit. Like, I swear I've seen this guy like 5 times over on the left.
That guy over there on the left, who's that? Is that the Mattingly?
That's Young.
Oh, it's Young. Wait a minute, no, it says from left to right. No, that's Mattingly over
Oh,
there.
yeah,
The guy in
that
the
is
middle
Mattingly.
is
Yeah,
Young,
sorry.
and the other guy, that's Duke over there on the right. Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Man, honestly, you know, it's a fairly interesting thing. Also, hold up, I want to look at a couple of others here. This Apollo, oh, this was Apollo 13? Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Also, that was the damage to command module that they abandoned, and there's the damage to it right there that you can see. But let's see here. Dude, that was legitimately one of the cooler, like, patches that they had for an Apollo mission was Apollo 13.
Yeah, it really was, honestly. That's a sick picture.
Dude, who the hell did they have designing the Apollo stuff? Because, like, most other government things just look like garbage, you know, like CENTCOM's emblem. But then they were like, let's do Apollo 17. What should we make? The hardest thing ever. And it's, like, just stuff like this. It's like, that actually was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was cool, honestly. These are a lot better looking than some of the other stuff I've seen.
You know what I like, though, was the Nixon-era government redesigns of the logos. So, the NASA logo. Let me go see here if I can get the squiggle. This one. I love these redesigns.
Oh, yeah, these were like the new modern style and stuff like that. They did the NASA logo. I think they did the EPA logo as well in a different one. And they just did all of them. They all looked really cool after they modernized them.
Environmental Protection Agency. There we go. This is the modern logo, which I'm not really that big of a fan of. But I think they had an older logo. Let me go see if I can find it. It's from the Nixon era, because I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but Nixon actually had this thing with wanting to redesign everything. So they brought in this really famous modern like emblem and logo designer, really an artist of the time, and they had them go and redesign all of the government logos. Some of them stuck, like the NASA one. A lot of people know that one. It's called the squiggle or the worm. But I don't know which one of these up here at the top was the EPA's that was designed during that era. It may have been this one.
Yeah, I think actually it was that one. That looks like the same sort of like style as the NASA logo.
Yeah, I think it was a pretty. Let me go see if I can just type in the Nixon era logo redesigns and just go find a list of them. Let's see here. How the government. Let's see how. Let's see. Oh my God. Can we get like some? Can we get some somebody? Oh, let's see here. Oh, dude, the bicentennial logo. That was another cool one. Actually, they show all of them here on this website. I'm just going to show them to y'all because they are pretty neat. One second, let me make sure to close all the pop-ups. So let's see. Honestly, dude, these were all pretty neat. So here they are. These were all the Nixon era redesigns that were made. This was the bicentennial logo.
That's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. And it was put on rovers, things like that on Mars, all that. This was the U.S. Department of the Interior's redesign. That one was all right.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. For some reason, like the two hands and stuff like that, it reminds me of like honestly, some commie stuff, to be honest with you.
Commie! And then we also had the EPA. That one's pretty okay. That also looks really cool in the way they used to do it. Like, that was actually really neat. And then we also had, let me see here. Dude, they actually had it going on back in the 70s, man. Like with just like the whole like deal that was going on. Pretty neat.
Yeah, you know, they'd actually hired like a professional like design firm to like really redo all this stuff. I think that's the name of them right there below the photo. And they redesigned the entire thing. They basically got a marketing firm to market these government agencies, which is typically not done today anymore. In fact, pretty much every government agency now is not marketed very well. It's just kind of bland because they kind of went away from this.
Yeah, and the national. This actually was a cool one for the National Park Service. I do like their normal logo, but that actually wasn't that bad.
That's not too bad.
And then let's see here. PBS. I'm not gonna
Oh
lie.
yeah, PBS. I think it's largely the same these days, isn't it?
That's iconic. Yeah, I think they got rid of the white and red outlines. Now it's just the blue one, but that's iconic. Like everyone knows the PBS logo. Very good, very good. NASA, iconic. You can't even do better than that. The DC Metro was that? Huh.
Oh.
Dude, that honestly is like almost like a modern corporate style, really.
Yeah, it really is. It's really hard to believe how much like these design firms really get paid for this kind of stuff. Like coming up with that clip art looking thing right there probably costs millions, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it probably did. And look at this, man. Look at this. Look at all the little different emblems that they made for the DC Metro. Like actually, it's really like those were actually pretty neat. Like very nice and simplistic looking. I like them.
Yes, probably worth millions actually.
Yes, and look at all these. Pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Like those. They made a nice repertoire of what
The National Zoo.
the National Zoo. That looks like the USPS mail bird feeding baby bird.
Man, honestly, let's see. What else do we have? This is the National Zoo map made once again. There's the NASA logo. I'm trying to see if we can find any of the others. Let's see here. This looks to be explaining and breaking down everything from that point on. Unfortunate. I think that was all the Nixon redesigns. The NASA one was the best. The EPA was pretty good. The Department of the Interior was questionable. And also, I do have to say that the National Park Service's normal emblem, which we can get right here, which is this one, cannot beat it. Like, that is one of the coolest looking emblems for any government service out there, in my opinion.
Super creative. Like that looks like what an arrowhead like is in the background. They got the bison, they got the tree, they got the nice shading, they got the mountain. I even like the way they put the font. They didn't like the little sign like font they put on their signs. It's pretty cool.
Dude, it honestly, dude, I just love this one. Like, it's a really cool one. Another one that I also like is, let me see, the U.S. Forest Service. We already looked at this one, like, I believe yesterday or the day before, but this one's also really cool. And then also the Department of Agriculture. Let me see here.
Department of Government Efficiency. That logo is interesting.
That looks like shit. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, that's terrible looking.
It looks like something you see like on a scam business or something like that. Like, you know, if you saw like a scam being run, it's like this is the type logo it would have.
Dude, isn't this the same thing that they used for that scam Bitcoin Island or something like that? You know, like where they were like ripping people off to buy into a fake island that didn't exist or something like that.
I'm not really sure. I haven't heard of that, but you know, this looks like something like out of a cartoon, even like something like Mr. Krabs would have like on his front gates of his house or something like that. Something along those lines, to be honest.
This is, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, this is the worst thing ever that I've ever seen for anything. But anyways, moving on from that, it's technically not even a real government agency, I believe. But anyways, moving on from that, let's see here. We need to go to the department. Let's see. Well, actually, let me go and show you all the Food and Drug Administrations. I think this was a Nixon era kind of a redesign right here. Not bad.
Yeah, this was a Nixon era redesign. I like it.
Pretty cool. And then let's see here. What else do we have? We have the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Department of Agriculture. We've shown you all this one. This one's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't care for this one. It looks too clip art like.
But this one's not that bad.
No, I like that one, the USADA. Or
The
USDA, not the
USDA.
USADA.
The USADA. Like, and then we have the Department of State, which is also incredibly cool.
I love that one.
The Department of State is drippy. And then we have the scariest one. I'm about to terrify all of you. The Internal Revenue Service.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, get away! Like it's such a but actually,
gosh.
I'm not gonna lie. The design is actually fairly interesting and really unique.
Yeah, it's real unique until that bird on that logo starts pecking away at your paycheck, and then it's not so neat anymore. That damn bird steals so much dang money. Come on, man.
Man, I'm telling you, man, you better watch out. Like you better watch out. But let's see. Oh, wait a minute. The Department of the Treasury. We didn't even show that one. The Department of the Treasury. The Department of the Treasury. Let me hang on. Treasury. There we go. And we want to find the one for the US of A. Boom.
Oh, Department of the Treasury, yeah. They needed to work a little more on their system security, Governor, than their logo, I think.
Was this flag made in like Microsoft Print?
They didn't put the right resolution on it. It's like made for like, I don't even know who can see that.
Me either. I have no. Wait a minute, hang on. The original seal looked like this. I gotta say they upgraded. Like that was terrible. This is a lot better.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, no joke. Let's see. What is another U.S. department, Matthew? One more before we move on. That you
U.S.
think
Department of Energy.
U.S. Department of Energy.
The nuclear people.
Oh, terrible flag. But that's their logo.
Oh, yeah, look at that. U.S. Department of Energy. They even got the nice progressive color scheme. Look at that. They even got the razor blade going to the R. They're fast forwarding, baby. Look at that.
Man, let me go get, here we go, the U.S. Department of Transportation.
That looks like it should be like on a Weather Channel logo or something. The logo is not it.
No.
It does not tell you anything about what this is doing. It looks like a hurricane center, like a logo or something.
Man, I think it's supposed to be like that shape is supposed to like simulate the spinning of a wheel. Like maybe because it's kind of got like that motion kind of a look to it a little.
That would kind of fit. U.S. Department of Transportation knows nothing about transportation, and that's the way they think a wheel looks. So that would fit.
It spins. It's like, so U.S. Department of Transportation, what do you regulate? Anything that spins. It's like, what is that? It's like, but also I gotta say, big shout out to a company that really isn't like a U.S. government entity, but it kind of is, Amtrak, which in my opinion has a pretty bomber kind of a logo. That's a really decent one. I like it. I think it's cool. It's iconic. I like the little wavy thing over here. Don't know what even the hell that's supposed to be, but I think it's cool.
I like the Amtrak logo. I don't like their trains necessarily, but I like the logo.
What the hell do you mean you don't like the trains? Look at that thing. That is cool. I honestly, man, though, I like the new liveries that they have because this was the Phase 5 right here on these locomotives. I'm not going to lie, dude. The Phase 7s, this was their original logo, by the way. Yeah, it was, not great.
Yeah.
But let me see here. Oh, yeah, this was their Phase 3 livery.
Oh, Phase 3. Phase 3's got its advantages. I mean, it looks okay.
It's good. It's iconic though because it was on the F40s, and for some reason people like foam about the F40s. But let me see here if I can get that Phase 7 real quick. I want us to get that Phase 7 because it looks great. It looks so good, and it's brand new. Oh, are you kidding? Okay, we're gonna have to go get the ELC 42. 1 second. Let me go grab the ELC 42 Simmons Charger. And let me go down here, and I'm sure, here we go. That is the Phase 7 livery, and I think that is the best one they've ever made yet.
I would agree with that. It looks the most modern. It looks actually the most flashy. It looks like the color scheme of a motorcycle helmet.
Honestly, kind of does. I really like that red at the top. They did that for railway safety, so that way you could see the locomotive coming at you head on to know to get the hell out of the way before it kills you. But I really do like it. It's just a really good looking paint scheme. But anyways, with that, enough about government liveries, logos, and schemes. And with that, it is time for us to move on to the next. But still, a huge thanks to you once again, Gunfox, for the support and helping this channel keep on running. And I hope you liked our government logo rabbit hole, along with our Apollo rabbit hole. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Destiny Edgington, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, Destiny, for that support. And I did get that super sticker. Let me go back and find that real quick, because I actually need to grab it, because there it is. It's right there at the top. And Destiny Edgington's super sticker says, "You are amazing," and it shows the YouTube pair jumping around with a cane. I guess he's a pimp, but the pair is wilding out here. But thank you very much, Destiny, for that support, seriously speaking, and we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Destiny Edgington, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running, keep it rolling. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have two more super chats here. This one goes to Samba World Percussion, who puts in a $20 donation. And also, we have a 20 from Roy Tooley. And thank you, Samba World, and also Roy Tooley as well for helping to keep the channel running. And I did not see comments attached to either one of those super chats. So, huge shout to the both of you. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, thank you so much once again to both of y'all for really enjoying this channel and supporting it and helping it to keep on running. Y'all didn't throw in comments, but the support is incredible, and of course helps us to keep this thing rolling day in and day out without end, anytime in sight. And so with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Monsieur Gaston, who puts in a 20 as well. Thank you very much, Monsieur, for the support once again. And he says, for the excellent Greenland video, and very educational and professionally done, and LSA. And thank you very much, Monsieur, for the kind words about the video. I would say that I would have to agree with you. I did put a lot of effort into making it look very professional. Sadly, though, even though it looked professional, at least according to your very kind words there, it sort of underestimated one thing, and it was the estimation of how political people would get over the topic. So that was a bit of an oversight on my part, but you have to live and learn. And I'm living and I'm also learning. So with that, thank you very much, Monsieur, for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I have to say thank you so much once again for support. And I would have to agree, Matthew's Greenland video was baller. I thought it was great. I thought it was everything that it should have been. But for some reason, it just didn't do well, and it wasn't really received well by a particularly vocal group of people. So I was, like, well, I told Matthew, I was like, it's up to you. If you want to take it down, you can. If you don't have to. I thought it was really good, and it's unfortunate it's not doing well. He decided to take it down, though, because it could impact our standing in the algorithm, which is very understandable and is a bit of a concern these days. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much once again for support and really throwing in some kind words, because I thought it was an amazing video made incredibly well, that was really informative and really unbiased and really got down to what this channel does, which is unbiased reporting. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. Hope that does address that incredibly well, but y'all will be able to find it out there somewhere. If you're on Patreon, we should be able to put up a link here soon after the stream. And also, not only that, we will be making sure to put out a link somewhere, so that way if y'all want to see it, y'all can. It's just that it won't be a publicly listed video, so that way it affects our algorithmic standing. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best we can, and thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to James Hughes, who puts in a very generous 50 smackaroo donation. And thank you very much, James, for that smackaroo right there, and we appreciate that very much as well. And James says, hello, Enforcers, and you guys are incredibly talented and have brought a bright future, and have a bright future, that is. And do you guys think that Ukraine will launch an offensive inside Ukraine this year? And if yes, estimated time and place.
And I thank you so much once again for the support and the kind words. I hope that we have a bright future ahead of us, because there are some things that we necessarily are not really able to control behind the scenes, where some people are trying to ensure that they make our future as difficult as possible. Hopefully that'll change here soon, although I'm very pessimistic about that. But beyond that, I do thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I do have to say, as far as your question, and I want to make sure that I was hearing this correctly, Matthew, do I see Ukraine conducting a new offensive in Russia sometime soon?
He said, do you think Ukraine will launch an offensive inside Ukraine this year? And if yes, what is the time and place, do you think?
I believe that they will. I actually think it will be after the summer, at some point. And I wouldn't really know where, because those kinds of offensives are really hard to gauge. But I think it would be during the time after the summer. It would be before the Rasputitsa, when the ground is dry, and also after a decent amount of U.S. arms shipments have been able to make it into Ukraine, and then they've been able to build up enough firepower to be able to leverage against the Russians. So that's what I largely would think at this point. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is going to go to, let me scroll down to it while the spreadsheet is glitching. This one goes to George, and thank you very much, George, for that $10 support. He says, it's very important to hit that like button on a YouTube live stream. It helps boost the visibility and reaches more people through YouTube's algorithm. Oh, yes, that is true. The algorithm, the almighty algorithm. But thank you very much, George, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you so much for the support, George. And that is right. If you do hit the like button, you're helping out this channel massively, and you're helping YouTube to know that people are really enjoying the stream and really want to push it out to get to more people. Sorry for yawning, everyone. I don't know why I did that. I drank a load of coffee before the stream. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for wanting everyone to hit the like button, because it will help this channel to keep on getting to more people and letting them know what we're doing out here, and for them to join the mighty Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army is now, as of this point, let me go check. Let me go check. 338,550 strong. A very significant number. It's huge when you think about it. And I got to thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing a reality. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Rai Guy SR, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Rai Guy. He said, Matt, keep up the great work on those videos, and you can't make them all happy. And also, question for Enforcer, does he think Russia's probing Finland for a soft spot to invade? And also, thank you, Rai Guy, for the kind words, by the way. I appreciate that.
And thank you so much, Rye Guy, for the kind words. And to answer your question, yes, I think that that's most likely what they're probing, not really for an invasion, but to see what would be the weakest spots to hit in NATO, to really kind of dictate where the war is being fought on their terms instead of NATO's terms during those opening days and weeks of the conflict. And I think that that's largely what we're starting to see at this point with Russian probing attempts and Russian escalation, is that they're trying to prepare themselves and position themselves to be able to be the ones who largely run the war and get to say when and where something happens. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And we thank you so much for the kind words again, because once again, kind words are very rarely heard behind the scenes. To be entirely honest with y'all, rarely ever heard kind words at all growing up. We're actually used to more so criticism than anything. So it's always great to hear people actually enjoying our channel and really liking it, because for years now, you know, we've gotten used to it and we kind of, you know, take it for granted, but it's really a great thing to know that so many people have so many kind things to say about this channel and think that it's an absolutely amazing thing. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to the Big House Gamil, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Big House Gamil, for that support, and we appreciate it. And he said, Gibberty.
Gibberty?
I don't even know. It's like an insurance company, but it's also like freedom. It's also like something else.
Gibby! Beyond that, I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And Gibberty, high degree. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Doug Halstead, who puts in a 10, and thank you, Doug, also for the support. He said, for the Bruce's Beef Jerky Fund. Oh, I'll have to try some. I've never really heard of that, but honestly, it sounds good. He said, also, could the U.S. provide Tomahawk missiles?
And yes, we could if we wanted to. We could really provide them anything we want as long as it's not a national security concern to provide them with it. And also, thank you so much for the beef jerky fund. Not really speaking of beef jerky, but speaking of something kind of new, I actually wore my Seattle shirt today. It actually threw Matthew off because he had never seen it before, and this is the first time I'm wearing it. But I took the tag off and put it on. I got it out in Seattle. And he was like, oh, look at that. And I was like, yeah, it's the Seattle shirt. So I guess in a way that y'all supported the channel enough for me to be able to get the Seattle shirt, because that is what I'm wearing right now. And I cannot wait to have some of that beef jerky as well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Someone said something right there, and well, you wouldn't believe it, that happened to us as well. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Gavin Nesplig, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Gavin, as well, for that support. He said, you guys are the best, and Slav Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for saying that we the best, DJ Khaled! And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so with that, big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a $10 super chat from Tom Exman, longtime channel legend, and thank you very much, Tom, for throwing in that $10 support. And let me go back and check real quick and make sure I'm not missing a super sticker. And let's take a look here. And no, he did not put in a super sticker, but thank you very much, Tom, for that support. And also he said, make sure you guys are always around, and we will be around. Trust me, Tom, we will always have a YouTube channel here. So rest assured, that will be the case. Maybe not the Greenland documentary video, but we will have a YouTube channel at least. But thank you, Tom, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we will be around. I can promise you that. We will be trying to do this for as long as we can. As long as we're able to pay the bills and keep the lights on and do this as our full-time job, we will be here. And I would largely assume that that would be years. Oh, man. Maybe I'll tell y'all more about some things in the future, maybe. But for now, we'll hold off on it. We'll, save all that for down the road later. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Gunfox once again. He puts in another day in history for us, by the way. Some more space news, and this one's a $10 super chat.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Gunfox, once again for the support. And last time he triggered a rabbit hole of epic proportions, and that's what he was going for, actually. So he is triggering another one. He said, Project Highwater Apollo mission. Also, there was 6 uncrewed missions that set up the first crewed mission, and the missions did set up for the crewed missions SA-1 through SA-6, and Apollo 7 was the first crewed.
And thank you so much for sharing that. I actually did not know that. And take a look at this. Here are the Project Highwater launches. Also, I'm very sorry, Gunfox, that I just kind of go on tangents on whatever. I try to explain this because I know that it's probably a letdown every time I answer your super chats. I don't really know a lot about space history, about space exploration or anything with the space programs. So usually whenever you throw in a super chat, I'm trying to work off of what I know, and it really is not a lot when it comes to anything involving space exploration. So I'm sorry if I really don't hit the mark and I just kind of rabbit hole on something completely else. I hope it's interesting, but I'm largely trying to rabbit hole on something that would be within my abilities to rabbit hole on, because I just don't know a lot about the space program. But still, thank you so much for the support. And this is a fairly interesting little deal right here. It's like a Saturn 1B on the bottom, but a nuke on the top. Very unique, very neat. And let's see, it was a test of the Saturn 1 launch vehicle using battleship upper stages, successfully launched into a suborbital trajectory from Cape Canaveral. So it actually is testing the lower stages. That's actually pretty neat. And so with that, I gotta say, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing a reality. And not only that, we wouldn't be able to see neat space projects like these. And so with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to William Mears, and William puts in a 7. And also, by the way, huge shout to you, William, for that support. I think that might be William's first support, if I'm not mistaken, but hopefully I'm not. But thank you very much, William, for the support. And also, by the way, that was Gavin Nesflick's first support as well, so huge shout to Gavin also. I forgot to mention that, because actually YouTube didn't say that in the control panel, but thank you very much for the support. And also, back to William's $7 super chat, he said, just enjoying the American national anthem, as it will be mine soon. And I'm from Canada, and we... and we may be joining the union soon. I wonder.
Lars, I actually had to be honest, I'm doubting that. I think a lot of things are just kind of hype talk. I think that's kind of one of them. Because I'll be honest with you, I really do not want to see the United States territorially expand really in any way. The only thing I could see the United States really claiming is the Panama Canal, and I've already explained the reasons for that many times, so you all know the reasons behind that. Greenland's a bit of a stretch to me. Like, I get what the security concerns are there, but I generally would say that that's a bit of a stretch, but still a major strategic concern. But beyond that, I don't really want to see, for example, Polk's America. Do y'all know what Polk's America is? There was a president called James K. Polk way back in the day. Here he is right here. This is what he looked like. Not really a looker, but he was one of our presidents. Nevertheless, he was the president from 1845 to 1849. He was the president that got us into the Mexican-American War. And his whole thing, I'm not going to lie, he said, if y'all vote me in, I'm going to go to war with Mexico, and then I'm going to leave. And that's exactly what he did. They voted him in. He went to war with Mexico. We won. So we got Texas and a large amount of additional territory out west. And then he didn't run again, and he just left. I mean, like, he was a man of his word. He had a one campaign premise. He got voted in on it, he did it, and he left. Like, regardless whether you agree with taking territory from Mexico at the time in the modern world is another thing. The fact that the guy had one campaign ambition and he achieved the ambition, I would have to say that this is probably one of the most honest politicians that ever was the president of the United States. He just said it as it was, did it, and left. So he was entirely honest to what he was wanting to do. I respect him for that. But there was an idea that Polk had, and let me go see if I can get the Polk's America map of what he was largely wanting the United States to look like in the future. So this is what the United States would have looked like under Polk if he had been able to achieve what he really wanted after he was president. We would have controlled Cuba, most of Mexico, and we would control everything south, I believe, of the 49th parallel.
Interesting. So he was wanting a lot. Like that guy was wanting to take a lot. Like we think that we're we're saying imperialism today. It's like this was actually it right there.
man, this was it. It's like the whole Yucatan, as well as most of northern Mexico, along with everything else. Like, we were going to cut Mexico down to, I believe, a quarter of its size from what it was before Polk's presidency. And it's like, that is just wild, like, to think that we were about to do that. We didn't, of course, end up doing that. We just ended up taking the parts that are a part of the United States today.
You know what's interesting though is like even though that guy was wanting to take a huge part of Mexico, he's wanting to take a part of the tip of like what was it, Guatemala or something like that. Whatever country is there on the tip. Is that Mexico still right there on the tip?
Yucatan, yeah, that's the
Oh,
Yucatan.
it's Yucatan. Also Cuba too. They were still going to call it the Gulf of Mexico even after taking all that. So, we're not even taking that, but yeah, we're renaming the Gulf.
We're gonna rename it the Gulf of America. Even Polk was like, nah, I want to take over the whole thing. I'm still gonna call it the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
dude, he
That's
was like,
crazy, honestly.
dude, Polk was like, you pitiful fool. Why rename the Gulf when you just own it anyways? Just like, think, man, think. But like Polk was an interesting president. But nevertheless, I'm just not really a fan of this kind of a deal because the United States doesn't really get a lot of value. Like, I'll explain how things have changed. Back in the day, land actually was value. Like, the more land a country had, there was inherent value in that. Nowadays, you can really gain value economically without even needing land. I mean, hell, look at South Korea, best example. A GDP as big as Russia's, and they hardly have any land to show for it. The modern-day industrial world simply just does not require a massive amount of land for a country to be successful. You can be economically successful and militarily successful these days with a small amount of land. And that's why I say the United States is fine the way it is. I'm not really wanting to see Canada become a part of the United States. Like, no offense to Canada, it's just that I don't really get what the point is of the United States administering and controlling the entire territory of Canada and taking on all of the additional expense and also changing everything in the Congress, because you would have to divvy Canada up into districts. They would have to get representatives. They'd have to get senators. You would have to, I don't even know what the naturalization process would look like for Canadians at that point. It's like, do we just, blanket statement, y'all are all American citizens now? How do we go about that? That would create a huge political battle that would never be solved for like 30 years. It would be like the damn Reconstruction after the Civil War. It would be that in depth and that convoluted and that, conniving and scheming, just like that was. It would be a horrendous thing, like to do that with Canada. That's why I'm like, I'm fine with like, Canada being Canada and Mexico being Mexico, and generally everything else being what it is. Like with the Panama Canal, it's really like a open and cut kind of a deal, open and shut sort of a deal. We just retake the canal zone and administer it, and that's a, very easy thing, straightforward. But with taking over territory these days for the United States that has large populations in it, and you're not talking about running it as a territory, and you're actually wanting to turn it into an actual part of the U.S., meaning that it has to be, there has to be multiple areas that request statehood, and it has to be granted, and, all that stuff. Oh my God. Imagine. Like, so I want to let y'all know this, because this is like a huge political handicap in the United States, is that because of the political parties that exist, because of the two of them, and y'all know which two I'm talking about, there never can just be a single state accepted on, because that's going to throw off the Senate. So, like, for example, with Puerto Rico, this is kind of the reason why Puerto Rico is not a state. Puerto Rico has a large enough population that it actually can be a state, and it could succeed. But the problem is that Puerto Rico, whenever they vote as a territory, they lean towards a certain political direction. And so if we go, let's add a 51st state, that makes the number odd. And that now means that there's 102 senators inside of the Senate. And this also means that those two new senators are going to throw off the largely existent balance of the near 50-50 split that exists in the Senate currently, and it's going to tip it towards one political party permanently. So the other political party has an invested interest in ensuring that this never becomes a state. Now, that can be changed, though, if there is a state that leans a totally different direction. So let's go with this, for example. I'm going to keep this entirely politically neutral, but I'm going to explain how it will work in the party system that we have right now. So Puerto Rico, let's just say it's Democrat, and then let's go with Guam as Republican. So the only way to get Puerto Rico as the 51st state is to accept Guam as the 52nd simultaneously, because that's what they did with Hawaii and Alaska. I believe even at that time, Alaska was leaning more so Republican, and Hawaii was leaning more so Democrat. So the general sort of I guess you could say, compromise that was made in the Congress was we'll ratify both of them into statehood simultaneously, so that there'll be 2 new Democrat senators and 2 new Republican senators in the Senate, maintaining the balance. And that's like, y'all would think that sounds like a modern political creation. That was what it was like all the way back before the Civil War. It's always been a battle with adding new states, that they have to add an equal amount of both parties' leanings as far as states at the same time, and that's why it's really difficult and practically just unbelievably complex and a huge battle to really add a new state of any kind. And that's why it's like, oh my God, Canada would be a headache, because it's a massive territory. There's a decent amount of people there, and you would have these states throughout these areas, and there would be one party that wouldn't want them to be a state because it's going to throw off the Senate against them, and then the other one's going to want them, and it's just going to be a whole deal. It's going to be an insane deal, and that's why I would just say I don't think that would be worth even getting into. But of course, I'm not getting into politics here, just kind of explaining how the system works. So don't take that as me bashing or supporting one side. I'm really trying to explain the headaches that exist politically in general, not, supporting one side or the other that deals with that sort of a deal. And Destiny Edge sounds like a headache. It is. And why have the headache when we could just avoid it? It's like we could just avoid it by not, annexing Canada. That would be an easy way to just get around this whole deal and not have a problem with that. But still, thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Neil Vizanot, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Neil, as well for the support. He says, hi, guys, and the ICBM interceptor number I gave yesterday is a low ball, and a better number is 400 to 700 U.S. ICBM interceptions. And what do you think Russia will do if they realize that their ICBMs are useless?
I have a feeling that they're still going to threaten them, because even if there is a small percentage that our interceptors may fail, they still can make some impacts on their targets. So I think that's generally what they'll still do, is they'll still lean heavily into those nuclear weapons. And that may also be why they're trying to heavily lean into developing hypersonics, so that way they may be able to overcome the major air defense strategies that we've been able to implement in the modern day. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, someone said, no offense, we don't want to become Americans. No, I'm totally behind that. Like, I really don't want y'all to be an American. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like Canada's fine. It's like there's nothing wrong with Canada, and I don't really know why we want the territory. It's like I just don't really get it. And also, it's like, what if Russia invades? So what? It's like, what are they going to do? Land in this shitty marsh up here in the Northwest Territories and somehow march through it? It's like they can't do that. It's like not even a modern military could do that effectively with large numbers. It's like that would be impossible. Like, it's like I know that's what they said, and then Hannibal crossed the Alps kind of a deal. But really, like, a large fighting force in the Northwest Territories, there's not even any road infrastructure to support supplies. It's like there's no way that Canada could actually be invaded. Now, Greenland could be invaded in choice spots where there are key facilities, and that could happen. But Canada being invaded in any meaningful way? Absolutely not. Most of their major population and infrastructure areas are down here in between Mississauga, really all the way down near the Ontario Peninsula and all the way up towards New Brunswick. So, unless you're invading that area directly, you're really doing nothing to hurt Canada at all. So with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here goes to Robert Tusker20, who puts in a 5 as well. And thank you very much, Robert, for the support. He said, can we get a link to the LSA fan Discord server? And I'm not able to find it on Google or anything. And thanks. And please take a live chat.
And thank you so much for the support. And I don't think we can give out the link directly in the chat, but there are people who are a part of the fan Discord that can add you, or you can ask them and they can get you in it. And they're in the chat right now. There's a decent amount of them that are in the fan Discord. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and to grab that live chat question for Robert, this one goes to Judy from the live chat, who says, do you think that Russia was trying to goat the Finns into doing something with the airspace violation?
It possibly could have been the case that they were looking for those aircraft to be intercepted or shot down as a violation of their airspace, and they would use it as a justification for more hostile action, but I'm generally downing it. I'm generally thinking that they were just wanting to test reaction times and see if Finland's readiness standards are low at this point, and I think that that's what they found out today. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for supporting and helping this channel to keep on running, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Kachulian343, who puts in a 5 as well. And thank you very much, Kachulian, for that $5 support. And they said, it makes me sad saying this, but people like you and CoffeeZilla have more journalistic integrity in their pinky than all of mainstream news combined. RNL.
And thank you so much for the kind words and the support. And I would have to say that's really high praise. I got to thank you so much for having such a high opinion of us. We try our best to make sure that we're not political and that we're unbiased. Well, I got to be clear, we do obviously have a bias. We're Americans, and so we're pro-American. I'm not going to be like Tucker Carlson and chill for the Russians or the Chinese. I mean, come on, I'm not stooping that low. But beyond that, I do thank you so much for the support, and I thank you for the kindness. It means a lot to us. And I hope that a lot of people enjoy how we present the news. I feel like it's really a return to classics. Like, for example, let's see, I'm forgetting the guy's name right now. Walter Cronkite, that's the guy I'm thinking about. Kind of a return to the classics there. Non-political coverage, but he is pro-American. Because we are from the United States. And I hope that people like that. I really do. And I hope that people are really liking our intro. And it seems like a lot of people are loving it these days. The orchestrations will be done soon, so that will be completely done here before long. And we'll have a completely all-American patriotic intro. Hopefully it'll make everyone proud to be an American, no matter what part you're playing in the United States, whether it be just a janitor or a soldier in the armed forces or a Congress member or whoever. Hopefully it makes everyone proud to be an American. And hopefully it makes everyone that is not an American proud to be an ally of the United States around the world. But I thank you so much once again for support and the kind words and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Dapper Dragon, who puts in a 5 as well. And thank you very much, Dapper Dragon, for that support. And they said, did you guys hear about a guy called, I don't know what this means, Dapper Dragon. This is interesting. I've never heard that individual in the U.S. government. So, Enforcer, have you heard of this individual? This is a super chat from Dapper Dragon.
Let me go take a look real quick. And let's see here. I haven't heard of that guy. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And also, Matthew, we have a loon in here. I'm going to ban them myself. And there we go. They are gone.
I got them too.
Oh, nice. Look, we double tap. Calling a drone strike. But goodness, lunatics coming in here. I tell you, that's a kind of a deal that's hitting close to home these days with that kind of a fanaticism and lunacy. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to RJ Lupin 2, who puts in a 5 as well, and thank you very much, RJ, for that support. He said, thanks for the hard work, and have you ever seen Earth in 3D, like your eyes are 100 miles apart, and you can. And by the way, gravitational lensing is 3D, and see Hamilton's object.
Thank you for the support. I think I'd rather not see Hamilton's object. I'm okay. I'm just kidding. I'll try it out sometime. But still, thank you so much for the recommendation, and thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one goes to Punished Foxo, who puts in a 3, and also Plazat, who puts in a 2 as well. And thank you very much, Punished Foxo and Plazat, for that support, and also helping to keep us running. We also have a 2 from LSA Dragon, who says, our future president.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, and thank you for wanting me to be your future president. Hopefully I will be able to be the future president one day, but we will see. Right now, we just got to get basic things taken care of, like what am I going to use for transportation? Because, let's see, I believe it is as of right now. Yeah, it will be as of in 4 minutes. As of in 4 minutes, I will no longer have a car. So, yeah, that'll be great. So we are going to have to figure that one out first, I suppose. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it rolling. And so with that, thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Bald Thanos, who puts in a 2. It says, smack that like button.
And smack that like button, baby! And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Phase YN, who puts in a 10 as well. Thank you very much, Phase YN, for that support. He said, "Hey, Enforcer Matt, and I download your lives every day to listen while I'm at work. And it's always amazing, even if the 15-minute start time feels long. And my mom is from Panama and agrees with y'all on the canal." That's interesting, by the way, that your mom is from Panama and actually agrees on the U.S. retaking the canal. That's actually very interesting. I would not have expected that. But also, thank you for the kind words about the stream as well. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to say, thank you so much once again for support, Phase YN, and helping this channel to keep on running. And that's very interesting to hear that she does agree with us, and she's from Panama. But nevertheless, I got to say, thank you so much once again for support. And I got to say, it's wonderful to know that we're able to keep you at work and keep you rolling. Because I'm glad to know that we're able to accompany people while they're hard at work. It's the hardworking folks in the United States of America that make this nation a reality every day. And we'd love to know that we're able to keep some of y'all company while y'all are ensuring that the flag of the United States can be run up the flagpole another time tomorrow. And so with that, a huge thank you to you so much once again in helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And also, I see a lot of people saying, well, what's happening to your car? We're not going to get into that. It's a very complicated and a very messy kind of a thing. It's not that my car, like, just to make this a little bit clear, it's not that my car is being repossessed. It's that the insurance is lapsing on it, and currently neither me or Matthew has any way, due to reasons, for us to be able to insure our cars. So, according to the laws of the state of Alabama, if we do not have insurance for that car and someone just even bumps the fender and the police are called and they ask us for proof of insurance, we don't have any and we get a misdemeanor, and that could be jail time. So, pretty much as of 2 minutes from now, we will not have a car until that is fixed. And that's almost completely out of our control at this point. So, with that, hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Doug Halstead, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Doug, for the support as well. He said, "Gentlemen, the LSA needs a long-lasting shirt." And I would have to agree with you. It really, honestly does need a long-lasting shirt. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would agree, it needs a long-lasting shirt. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so a massive thanks once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Dustin Mayo yet again, who puts a $2 donation. And thank you very much, Dustin, as well. He said, "Does Ukraine still have a no-fly zone?"
Yes, they do have a no-fly zone. Commercial flights generally are not allowed to fly through Ukraine because of the danger that is posed by active enemy air defense in occupied areas, and not only that, friendly Ukrainian air defense that may misidentify civilian aircraft. So for this reason, there is a no-fly zone over the entirety of the nation of Ukraine, and also some of the Russian border oblasts as well. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Marc-Andre Burnett, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Marc-Andre Burnett, for that support, and always throwing in that support every single night, and we appreciate that very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support. You're helping us to keep this thing running, and thank you once again. It means a lot. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And we also have a first-time super chat from Rye, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Rye, for that support. He said, "Car fund? A car fund? What?"
Oh.
He said, "Let me know if you have help navigating the complicated market of various powertrains and deals. I work for a big OEM." Now, I'm a car guy myself, Rye. I must say, I do agree with you. I do like the powertrains and the deals. But sadly, in this situation, it's not really an issue of necessarily buying a car because we have a car. It's just an issue of being able to use the car that we've paid so much money to maintain over the years that we're being prevented from using at this point because we're being held hostage with our vehicles because of some retribution, which is not very nice. But thank you very much for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for the support. I largely have to echo what Matthew's saying right there. It really isn't an issue of getting a new car. We have a car. It's right outside. Like, if I walk out of this room right now, it is probably 12 feet away from me at this point. But just a minute ago, the insurance lapsed. So unless if I want to possibly get a misdemeanor because I get pulled over or get in a fender bender, I can't really drive the thing. And because of other reasons, we can't get insurance on them. So it's a great thing. Also, like, I wish I could explain it more. We'll probably explain a little bit later what is going on with this. But for now, I'm going to see if the right action is taken because, as you all may know, it's not really a nice thing to do to someone who, is a person out there trying to work hard in the world like we are, and we're trying to get by and, make a living and not be, screwed with, for lack of better words. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also someone said that the young male insurance is very expensive. My car is decently old, actually. So actually the insurance is not that expensive on it because honestly, the car's not worth very much. But we can actually get the insurance no problem, actually. It's just a matter of being able to get it because you can't insure a car that your name's not on the title. Even though it's your car, if you don't have your name on the title, you can't insure it, which means you can't drive it, even though you've paid thousands to maintain it. But anyways, jumping into our next super chat here. This one goes to Phase YN, who puts in that 5. And thank you very much, Phase, for the second support of the night. They said the car insurance fund, and long live the LSA. Thank you for the car insurance fund, by the way. But just saying this, we're not asking for donations on it because it's not an issue of like not being able to pay for it. It's just an issue of not being able to get it because of various reasons. So I see people doing that, but we appreciate the kindness. But it's just a different issue. But Enforcer, what say you?
Yeah, it's a different issue. We can't afford the car insurance. It's that we cannot get them insured. Basically, to explain, the title is not in our name. That might start to key y'all in a little bit, but that's why we cannot get the insurance. So it's kind of up to the person who has the title in their name to continue the insurance because they're the only ones who can. So we don't have the titles, and so we can't get insurance for them. So that's kind of the issue at this point. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 10 from Shoyu's Ghost, who said it to the car fund.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support to the car fund. Hopefully we won't have to get a new car, but we'll see. But beyond that, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And with that, folks, that is actually our last super chat of the night so far. So huge shout out to everybody once again for being extremely generous tonight and donating to the channel and helping to keep us running. And we appreciate that, of course, very much every single night. So we're now moving on to get some live chat questions from everyone in the audience here. And it looks like we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Royal Fluffiness, Arabelle Garbo, Joni Dog, and Norm Pritchett. And they said the Morse code says Putin is crying because all them North Koreans were turned into dog pate for nothing. Oh, LLT, LSA.
That's the sound of money. And I got to say that is dead on the nail. That is the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all for getting that correct for the 1080th day of the war, because you'll continue to get that right time and time again. And so with that, a huge thanks to y'all once again for getting that correct. And with that, we actually have another super chat, and then we're going to be getting on into some live chat questions.
All right. So, wait a minute. Say what now? Say what? Say what?
We have another super chat. And then we have more live chats. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Well, I see it. Hold on, I see it. This one goes to Ryan H, who puts in a 5. And he says, hello, Enforcers. Do you have a favorite incident where we narrowly avoided nuclear war? And mine has to be the Petrov incident.
That actually is the exact incident I would say would be mine. And I believe, if I remember correctly, that's the one where the clouds were being picked up as incoming ICBMs, and they gave the order to launch the Soviet missiles at the United States, and the order was refused, and they weren't ICBMs, and the entire situation was avoided. That's something that I would generally say that I would say that's probably my favorite incident. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So with that, we are now moving on here. I believe we have no more super chats this time. I think it's actually time to move into our live chat questions. So our first live chat is going to go to Richard Head, who says, did the Russians bother letting the U.S. know before they shot off that IRBM yesterday?
I would assume that they most likely did, but we've never heard the United States government come out and confirm it. So they may be also trying to not embarrass the Russians unduly and kind of make sure to just, brush this under the rug a bit and not really mention it too much. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next live chat question is going to go to, let's see here. This one goes to 60TP, who says, maybe there was scrambling, but it will stay classified because there was something serious happened on air. And by serious, I don't mean dogfight.
That may be the case, but usually these kinds of interceptions are usually public information fairly, easily and quickly, because while there was an interception almost always involved, even sometimes if it looks like it was dangerous, unless if they were shooting at each other and then one of them was shot down, and even that would be publicized because someone would say that their aircraft got shot down. So I don't really know what was going on, and I have a feeling that that in my honest opinion, there probably wasn't any aircraft that were scrambled, and that's why they're kind of playing this low key, is because they were kind of caught off guard by the Russian action. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Brendex, who says, don't y'all think that Putler was considering the rare elements when he started this whole thing with Ukraine?
Maybe. I think it was more so considering the strategic concerns of NATO moving on to Russian borders through Ukraine, and I think that was really what kicked it off, and also the warm water port of Sevastopol for, power projection reasons. But I generally would say at this point that might be a minor concern, but I still think the strategic concerns are the paramount ones. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Adventure Camping Zone, who says, is there any legitimacy with the Siberian news that they are looking to support Ukraine?
Most likely not, because Siberia is a part of the Russian Federation, so unless if they're going to declare independence anytime soon, they are still working, lock in step with the Russian Federation because they're a part of it. That's kind of like saying the state of Alabama is going to actively support the war in Ukraine on the Russian side. It's like, how would they do that? They're part of the United States of America. It would be pretty hard to pull that one off. And that's not that Alabama would ever do that either, because we actually make a good amount of money supplying weapons to the U.S. military, so that way they can continue to give weapons to Ukraine. So with that, I hope that does address that well. We are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to AF Kaplan, who says, could the Russian violation of Finland's airspace have been a distraction to take attention away from their Oreshnik failure?
I would doubt it. I think that might be a completely separate incident that really had nothing to do with the Oreshnik launch, possibly. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. We are on to the next one.
And we've got one from Kachulian343, who says, with how outdated those helmets are, they might as well be wearing baseball caps as the same amount of protection.
Exactly. I mean, like, a shush helmet provides no protection except for shrapnel, which is still one of the major killers on the battlefield. But at the same time, it's like, that's not even a modern ballistic helmet. It's like that just does not provide the same kind of protective abilities as other modern helmets do, the shush helmet. So I would agree with you. It's a pretty sad deal to see those kinds of helmets being used by the Korean People's Army still to this day. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to You're Taking My Life, who says, could it have been a drone that crossed into the airspace while on the way to Ukraine? And since Ukraine hit the base Russia launched most from, maybe they tried a new place.
I would highly doubt that, because Finland is nowhere close to Ukraine, and also flying into the Baltic or into the Gulf of Finland is not heading towards Ukraine. So this was most likely a military aircraft or a government aircraft of some kind that was involved in this incident, and not a drone. I would say that that's generally highly unlikely. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this time we have another super chat. This time it's a first-time super chatter. It's Dan Wentz. And thank you very much, Dan, for that $10 support. He said, keep up the great work, guys.
And thank you so much for the support, Dan Wentz. And we will try and keep up the great work. And thank you for your first super chat ever and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to keep up our great work. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And a huge thanks to you so much once again.
Yes, indeed. And our next one here goes to Bo Nielsen, who says, isn't that a bit odd that Ukrainian F-16 pilots seem to be training for years, but F-2000 ones only took 3 months? What's up with that difference?
I don't really know. That's actually a good question. I wouldn't know the answer to that. I'd actually have to declare ignorance. That's a very good question, though, and that's why I'm having to declare ignorance. I don't know a good, clear, straightforward answer to that one yet. So with that, I hope that does address that kind of well, or at least explain why I can't give a good answer to that. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to Karungo Patrick, who puts in a 2000 UGX, first time ever support. And what currency is that, by the way? UGX. Do you know what that is, Enforcer?
That is a Ugandan shilling. Wow, that is really cool.
That is the first time, Karango, that we've ever had what was it again? A Ugandan
A
currency?
Ugandan shilling.
A Ugandan shilling. That is the first time, Karango. And thank you very much for support all the way from Uganda. We appreciate that. And Enforcer, what say you?
And that is really cool. And I got to thank you so much for support, Karango, and helping this channel to keep on running all the way from Uganda. It's the first time I've ever seen a super chat come in from Uganda. So I got to thank you so much for the massive support and being the first Ugandan viewer of the LSA that we've ever seen in the chat and the first one who's ever supported the channel. That is incredibly cool. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you from around the world that make this thing possible. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So our next one here is going to go to, let's see, AF Kaplan. He says, has there been an official statement from NATO regarding Russia's violation of Finland's airspace? And did they provide any further information on the incident?
They have not given any official statement, and they have not provided any further information. The only information that we have gotten is from the Finnish government. And so I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the third to last question of the night.
All right, and this one goes to 60 TP once again. He says, about that airspace violation in Finland once again, they said, did this channel report the Russians were digging trenches along the Finnish border? And if yes, then this might have been a bait for Finland to take.
We heard that they were beginning to build forward operating bases, or largely military bases, more so, around the area of the Finnish border, but we did not hear about trenches. Where we heard about trenches was near to the city of Grodno, inside of Belarus, facing towards the area of the Suwalki Gap. Still could have been a similar instance to what you're explaining, but I don't hear of any trench works being constructed or built around the area of the Finnish borders. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the second question, second to last question of the night.
All right, and this one goes to Logan Levine, who says, what do you guys think would happen if a Russian jet breaches airspace again and it actually gets damaged or shot down by air defenses?
If it happens again, there probably will be a major diplomatic incident. If the aircraft is shot down while Finland is defending their skies, that's practically an act of war at that point. And so we will most likely see that the Russian Federation goes to war with Finland, and then that draws NATO into the Third World War. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And also I see someone wishing us well with what's going on in the background. That's only the tip of the iceberg. We actually have a decent amount of stuff that is our personal property that we bought and paid for, that we're also not being allowed access to, and it's pretty much being held hostage at this point. We either have to completely adhere to these people's demands 100%, or else they will not allow us to have our property. So that's also another little bit of a complicating factor in the background as well. So with that, I hope that does address that well. And, you know, it's been fun, folks. I'll be entirely honest with y'all. I've been sleeping on an air mattress now for about a half year. Do not have my bed. And, you know, that's starting to really rack up a killing on my back. I have scoliosis. So, you know, my back is a little bit more sensitive to others than not less than perfect sleeping conditions. And so my back is hurting a good bit these days, almost all the time. So, you know, it's great that's going on. It's a wonderful thing, and you know, couldn't ask for better. But anyways, with that, we are on to the final well, actually, I believe the second to last question of the night.
And this is actually going to be the last question of the night, because it's our last one on the spreadsheet.
All right, and so we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is You're Taking My Life, who says, is Russia still jamming everyone's GPS up there? And maybe they jammed their own pilots' guidance systems, and it sounds like something Russia would probably do.
And I would say it probably does. It probably would be something that they could do, but I don't believe that they're doing that in that area, because every time we see jamming operations, they're based somewhere from Kaliningrad. So I would generally believe that probably didn't happen in the Finnish situation, but if it was around Kaliningrad, that's certainly possible, even for the Russians. And so with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well, at least the best I can. And we have reached the end of tonight's stream. And of course, I got to thank all of you so much once again for watching. 71,000 people have watched this stream. before it ended. And of course, there are still 5,000 people, nearly 4.8 thousand, watching right now. I got to say that it is an amazing thing to know that so many of y'all have been enjoying this channel tonight and watching it. We are always honored and incredibly grateful to know that we are y'all's voice of news every single day. That y'all are able to come here and get your news and also have an enjoyable place to stay and hear it and get some jokes in the meantime. It means a great deal to us. And I got to thank you all so much once again. And we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news from around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, stay safe, take care, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, huge shout out once again for another fantastic stream tonight. Thank you all for joining us. There was about 71,000 people that joined us tonight, which is a full house indeed. And we appreciate everybody being here and smacking that like button. We currently got over 3,500 likes, and we appreciate it very much. But with that, we'll be seeing you all tomorrow. If there is enough news to cover, you'll be hearing from one of us midday for the short war video. And otherwise, you'll be hearing from us at 10 p.m. Eastern on the stream on Saturday night. But with that, folks, thank you all again for watching. Of course, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.